A video first obtained by CNN in May showing him violently beating his then-girlfriend Cassie Ventura in a Los Angeles hotel back in 2016. Ventura filed a lawsuit against Coombs last November, a matter he settled in one day, denying any wrongdoing. He apologized via a post on social media, taking full responsibility, calling his actions inexcusable. Coombs was also accused in additional lawsuits of sexual assault and sex trafficking. Federal agents raided his Los Angeles and Miami Beach, Florida home in March while seizing his electronic devices. Coombs' attorney said they were disappointed with the decision to pursue what they believe is an unjust prosecution.
Recapping the top story, the DA in Gauteng says it's pleased with President Cyril Ramaphosa's decision to authorize the Special Investigating Unit to probe mismanagement allegations at the Gauteng Human Settlements Department. For SAFM News, I am Anne Musa.
SAFM, guiding you through the rush hour traffic.
Good morning. It is wet across parts of KZN again this morning. Drizzle around Durban region. Heavy rain inland to the north, so proceed with caution on wet and slippery roads. Very heavy mist. Nottingham Road through, well, basically Moy River, Pietermaritzburg through sort of Nottingham Road, Balgowan area. That mist is particularly heavy this morning, so extra caution required there. Staying in the province, we're just hearing about a protest with a truck blocking the R66 at Ulundi, just as you go into Ulundi, so there's likely to be some disruption there. And the possibility of protesting just outside Boksburg on the Main Reef Road at Vit Deep Road today. You might want to just keep your eyes on the road ahead for any signs of protesting and maybe hit some alternative routes around that. Rob Byrne, SAFM Traffic.
A very good morning to you. In your SFM sports headline, it's cricket action, which saw the Proteas women, they edge Pakistan in a T20 thriller. And rugby news, Dion Davids and Kwagga Smith have emphasized the speed and strength of the Argentinian team. That's ahead of their blockbuster encounter this weekend. Details around 6:30.
The Morning Brief with Thulasizwe Simelane. Weekdays, Monday to Friday, 6 to 9 a.m. The Morning Brief with Thulasizwe Simelane. Weekdays, Monday to Friday, 6 to 9 a.m.
8 minutes after 6 on this Tuesday, the 17th of September, 2024. Good morning, South Africa. This is the Morning Brief on SAFM, the local and international news, current affairs, insights, and opinions you need to lead the conversation today. Carefully curated and packaged for you, I'm Thulasizwe Simelane, here to deliver your morning brief. A busy news day ahead, so let's give you a sense of what's coming up on this show over the next 3 hours. The Department of Higher Education and Training says it is reviewing the National Student Financial Aid Scheme's funding model to improve its systems and reduce glitches. Yesterday, the Minister, Nobuhle Nkabane, announced that Friday, the 20th of September, is now the new date to open the 2025 online NSFAS application intake. The application window was initially scheduled to open yesterday, so we'll have a conversation with the NSFAS at about 7:10 in the second hour of the show. You'll know all about the problems that students have been reporting in terms of getting payments for those services such as rentals covered and tuition fees and the likes from the NSFAS. So we'll address those issues at about 7:10. In other news, the law firm Weber Wenzel says it is likely that changes to South Africa's import duties implemented by the South African Revenue Services will make importing low-value items from international platforms, and I don't know how to say this, is it Shein or is it Shein? I've heard people say Shein, so I'll go with Shein, and Temu. Less appealing for consumers. You'll know that on the 1st of September 2024, SARS added value-added tax to the 20% import duty already in place, which raised the costs for consumers who frequently shop online internationally. So we'll have a conversation about that coming up at about 8:10. The Department of Water and Sanitation, and this is one of those really intriguing stories, that department has paid the Mogale City municipality more than 35 million rand to fund repairs for its damaged sewage equipment. This is to address the issue of sewage in the municipality. As it stands, the Mogale City municipality is releasing thousands of liters of raw sewage into rivers and residential areas. So the journalist Sikonati Manchanja, and you'll know all about his work, he has been working that story, and he will have a conversation with us at about 8:20. The regulars, of course, also feature throughout the next 3 hours, and Musa with the news updates every half hour. We'll have Rob Byrne with your traffic every 15 or so minutes, Zaikan watching your sport throughout the morning. And of course, we have Ndauling Lechela, who has your economics, business and market news covered. Sipho Mantula with your Africa update just before 8 a.m. This is the morning brief on SAFM.
SAFM 104 to 107 nationwide. The Daily News Diary on SAFM.
Hey, good morning. And the weather is, as they say in South Africa, is not make sure today.
It's springing, it's springing today with some, I don't know,
It
last
looks
night.
foggy.
Yeah, but I'm just happy we got to experience,
A bit of
our
rain,
first
yeah?
rain. Yeah.
I saw a lot of excitement.
It will help with the dust. It has been so dusty, so
Absolutely.
it will help with the dust.
What do we have on the diary this morning?
The first of a few memorial services will be held today in honor of the late minister and struggle veteran Pravin Gordhan. It takes place in Johannesburg, and a funeral service will take place in Durban on Thursday. The President, Cyril Ramaphosa, has declared a special official funeral Category 2 to honor Gordhan. And convicted murderer and rapist Thabo Bester, who is currently facing charges of escaping from the Mangaung Correctional Centre in Bloemfontein by faking his death and fleeing to Tanzania with his girlfriend Nandipa Magudumana, has now formally filed a court application requesting access to a laptop, and this in order to adequately prepare for his upcoming deportation hearing. And the matter is set for the High Court in Johannesburg today, and he says that he's seeking access to the laptop just to basically help him prepare for his upcoming deportation case from Tanzania following, his alleged elaborate escape from prison. The trial in the case of the culpable homicide against Hendrik Brits, whose truck killed the Deputy Minister of Mineral Resources, Bavilele Hlongwa, is expected to resume in the Themba Magistrates Court, and a matter that has seen quite a number of postponements, after his legal representative failed to show up in court, and his truck drove into an accident scene, killing the deputy minister in September of 2019. And also judgment in the bail application of the former City of Cape Town member for Human Settlements, Malusi Boy, and 9 others expected to be handed down. They accused appearing in the Cape Town Magistrates Court for alleged tender and fraud, and this over R1 billion. And they face charges including money laundering, racketeering, as well as fraud and the prevention of organized crime. A 57-year-old soccer coach is also expected to appear at the Verulam Magistrates Court for a bail application, and he's facing 5 counts of rape. It's alleged that, the man who also conducted Bible studies with minor boys, he would actually drug and rape them, and the boys are aged between 9 and 12. And just lastly, the Commission for Gender Equality in the Eastern Cape will be holding a stakeholder engagement, and this to discuss findings and recommendations contained in its investigative report on the state of maternity and neonatal health care in the Eastern Cape. And part of the stakeholders invited to the meeting include the 7 hospitals that were investigated during the report.
All right, I've got to thank you. A shocking story there out of KwaZulu-Natal with that soccer coach. And
It is,
Yeah.
Quite.
all right, and Musa will have all of your updates every half hour here on the Morning Brief. And of course, you can catch all of those stories. It does seem like a very busy news day, particularly in the courts. You can catch all of those updates throughout the day here on SAFM, but also on other platforms of SABC News throughout the day.
This is Thulasizwe Simelane on the Morning Brief.
So let's give you a sense of how your weather is looking then. I suppose I suffer from short-termism when it comes to the issue of the weather. For me, the weather is what it is instantaneously at that moment. So right now I'm looking outside the window and I'm seeing it's a bit foggy, cloudy, and for me it's just going to be one of those days. But experience has proved that it does change and does improve as the day progresses. But let's look at how your weather is looking. Let's start with two warnings. The first one says it's a yellow level 2 warning that says severe thunderstorms resulting in heavy downpours, damaging winds, and large amounts of small hail, leading to localized flooding of susceptible roads and bridges. Damage to infrastructure and settlements are expected over KwaZulu-Natal. Northern parts of the Eastern Cape, Free State, southern parts of the Northwest, southern parts of Gauteng, and eastern parts of the Northern Cape. The other warning I have for you is that extremely high fire danger conditions are expected over the northeastern parts of the Northern Cape, the Western Bushveld in Limpopo, and over the Limpopo Valley. The rest of your weather looks like this. Pretoria is cloudy in the morning, otherwise partly cloudy with isolated showers and thunder showers with a minimum of 17 and a maximum of 28. The expected UVB sunburn index in Pretoria is high. In Johannesburg, it's cloudy in the morning, otherwise partly cloudy with scattered showers and thunder showers, 15 to 25. Vereeniging is cloudy in the morning, otherwise partly cloudy with scattered showers and thunder showers, 16 to 25. Mbombela is cloudy with isolated showers and thunder showers with a minimum of 17 and a maximum of 21. Polokwane is fine with a minimum of 18 and a maximum of 25. Mahikeng is cloudy and windy with isolated showers and thunder showers, 16 to 28. Vryburg is cloudy and windy with scattered showers and thunder showers, 12 to 26. Bloemfontein is cloudy and windy with widespread showers and thunder showers with a minimum of 13 and a maximum of 20. Kimberley is cloudy and windy with widespread showers and thunder showers. It's a minimum of 11 and a maximum of 26. Uppington is partly cloudy and windy with isolated showers and thunder showers with a minimum of 12 and a maximum of 26. Cape Town is fine. The wind in Cape Town is moderate southerly with a minimum of 11 and a maximum of 18. The expected UVB sunburn index in Cape Town is high. George is fine, becoming cloudy in the evening. The wind is light and variable in the morning, otherwise moderate southerly to southwesterly. It's a minimum of 9 and a maximum of 21. Gqeberha is partly cloudy, with the wind being light northerly, becoming light southeasterly in the afternoon. It's a minimum of 10 and a maximum of 22. East London is cloudy with afternoon showers and thunder showers. The wind is moderate northeasterly with a minimum of 16 and a maximum of 23. Durban is cloudy with widespread showers and thunder showers. The wind is moderate to fresh southwesterly at first, otherwise moderate to fresh easterly to northeasterly. It's a minimum of 18 and a maximum of 22. The expected UVB sunburn index in Durban is high. Richards Bay is cloudy with widespread evening showers and thunder showers. The wind is light and variable, becoming light to moderate easterly to northeasterly, reaching fresh at times. It's a minimum of 17 and a maximum of 25. And finally, in Pietermaritzburg, you will see morning fog. Otherwise, it's cloudy with widespread showers and thunder showers with a minimum of 14 and a maximum of 21.
The world's best cooking show is finally here. MasterChef South Africa Season 5. You'll meet 20 talented home cooks from around Mzansi, noma uphumaphi, and no matter your favorite dish. See if the chefs can handle the heat in the kitchen in a race to be crowned MasterChef South Africa. Every Saturday, 7:30 p.m. only on S3 Channel 193. MasterChef South Africa, the world's best cooking show, proudly sponsored by Pick n Pay.
Ask me how I know that 50% of car claims are pre-approved instantly. That's because I was one of them.
Yeah, they got my car back on the road with the first repair.
I submitted my claim on the ANG app. I didn't even have to call.
Auto & General is proud to be recognised as South Africa's best car insurer by Forbes and The Star for short-term insurance. Isn't it time you switch to award-winning cover? Visit autogen.co.za. Auto & General. Never not there. A&G is a licensed non-life insurer and FSP. T's and C's online.
Standard Bank, the biggest bank in Africa by assets, in partnership with SOAS, will host the fourth annual climate summit on 1 October. The summit will host insightful discussions with various industry experts in charting Africa's course to net zero. The annual summit is one of Standard Bank's sustainability initiatives dedicated to driving growth on the African continent. Tune in on our SAFM Facebook page and be a part of the conversation in shaping the future of Africa's energy transition, brought to you by Standard Bank Corporate and Investment Banking.
Worldview Update, bringing you closer to international or global news.
So we've sort of touched on this story a few times in the last few days, but it's so important it warrants focus on the Worldview Update this morning. The United States says it will support the addition of 2 new permanent seats for African countries to the powerful United Nations Security Council. The U.S. will also support a first-ever non-permanent seat for small island developing nations. U.S. Ambassador to the UN, Linda Thomas-Greenfield, made the announcement in a speech to the Council on Foreign Relations in New York last week. The announcement is a follow-up to U.S. President Joe Biden's announcement 2 years ago that the U.S. supports expanding the 15-member body. Africa currently has 3 non-permanent seats on the Security Council. For more on that discussion then and that development, I'm joined now by Bob Wegesa, who is Director, African Center for the Study of the United States at Wits University. Good morning, Bob. I've got to thank you for your time. So it's a huge inflection point in the history of the United Nations and perhaps the answer to the sustained calls by countries like South Africa for the UN system of governance to be reformed to reflect the realities of the 21st century multipolar world. Or is it?
No, it is, but again, it's not quite. The sense in which it is a momentous time is that the U.S. is taking the lead in proposing this, knowing very well that the U.S. itself is a veto power within the United Nations Security Council, alongside China, Britain, that's the UK, Russia, and France, the 5 veto powers. And so the fact that the U.S. is taking the lead, other than China or France or Britain, is a momentous point to consider. But it's not really momentous on the other hand. I mean, this is a split issue. It's underwhelming in the fact that the U.S. is actually proposing some very interesting, arrangements here, that Africa will be given 2 permanent seats, but there will be non-veto, meaning that it's not at the same level with the 5 veto powers. So this is a very strange proposal in that it purports to have 2 seats for African nations in the United Nations Security Council, but they are permanent but not at the same level with the P5.
Yeah,
the permanent 5. So that's very strange. Yeah.
I did notice that, Bob, and part of the comment from Linda Thomas-Greenfield, the U.S. ambassador to the UN, was that the veto power makes the UN Security Council quote-unquote dysfunctional, and I thought that's just quite ironic. So will it meet the demands, though, of African nations and the African Union, countries including South Africa and others, for the reform of the system, or is it likely to be rejected as not really meeting what the demand has been all along?
No, my hope is that African countries should grab it. This discussion around Africans in the United Nations Security Council has been going on for ages. And if a window, however narrow, presents itself, Africans should get in and argue for more benefits, more power, more roles and so forth from inside rather than the outside. I think rejecting it offhand presents an opportunity that they'll have to go back to the drawing board. And so my sense is that countries like South Africa, I mean, of course, now we can come then to the argument of which countries should go in. But of course, South Africa has been mentioned, Nigeria, Egypt, and so forth. So the negotiation actually should be at that point of, if the US is supporting us, can we rally the other P5 and the rest of the world to support us to get in? And now the discussion is, who is going to represent Africa, which is a tough question, but it also have to be concessions there.
I saw a conversation actually while you mentioned that seeks to frame it as the result of this proposal made the way that it's been made by the United States, is that it basically is pitting African countries against one another and basically saying you would have to fight it out amongst yourself. Is that in your mind, is that a fair characterization?
No, I think that is one perspective, because when you look at the U.S., it's not a homogeneous entity. So people like Linda Thomas Greenfield, the UN ambassador, U.S. UN ambassador, might be very positive towards Africa getting into the UN, but there are other interests that, particularly in the Republican Party, but also other American political realists who want Africa divided, who might be like, yeah, we'll say we are going to, give you 2 seats, or propose or push for 2 seats and throw it at you, and you're not going to agree. And then we'll absolve ourselves of any blame of not supporting African interests. So I think the onus now is for African countries to rise above the division and just say, from the SADC region, we are proposing this country.
Yeah.
From the Western Africa region, we are proposing this country. From the Northern African countries, we are proposing whatever country. I think not every country can, out of the 55, can be there. So South Africa has always been proposed. Nigeria has always been proposed. But Egypt has always argued that it should come in because it represents the Arab Maghreb North.
Yeah.
So I think the discussion should be there, not elsewhere.
Why is this all consequential, Bob? Why does it matter? In the realm of international law, whose force doesn't derive from, a government that can enforce those laws, it becomes difficult to enforce the norms of international law, with the UN Security Council, as far as I understand, being one of those exceptions where the cooperation of other member states is required once the Security Council has decided. But as we've just been talking about it, even that system that has a level of enforcement, for instance, what happened in Libya, has also been stymied by the veto, stymied by non-action. I mean, there was a resolution on a ceasefire in Gaza. Nothing has happened in that direction ever since.
No, I think there are 2 levels again here. One is that, of course, as you rightly put it, international law norms derive largely from the UN, although there are other international organizations, are based on the UN Charter. So, issues such as international norms and laws such as, say, freedom of expression, political rights, information rights, economic rights, usually derive from the UN. And even though sometimes it's difficult to enforce them, in other cases they have been enforced. I think you've already touched on the case of Libya. In now very practical terms, President Jacob Zuma went along. In fact, the South Africa at that time was part of the non-permanent members, went along with the rest of the P5 to agree that there will be no fly zone on Libya, and that ended up devastating the country. So you can see the power of being in the discussion when such momentous discussions are done. In the Gaza case, for example, although the resolution was made against Israel, and Israel has defied it, so Israel is against international law, even as in the case of the ICJ, which is appended somehow to the UN. So this has given Israel a bad name as a country that does not respect international law. So the importance of Africa being within the P5 is that it can help chart and set the pace and trends in terms of international law, which are sometimes respected, sometimes not.
Yeah.
And it's important to be in those discussions.
All right, I've got to thank you, Bob Wekesa, the director there of African Center for the Study of the United States at Wits University. I always say to Bob's point there that the true measure of who you are as a nation is your respect for those norms that are accepted by the global community of nations that have no enforcer, but it's about your moral standing and rectitude as a country. What do you believe in? What are your values? And will you respect them even when no one is forcing you to do exactly that? So that is the conversation. You can also weigh in on it. You can call us 086 000 2032, or you can send us a WhatsApp voice note on 061 410 4107. At 6:30, let's check in with N Musa now for a news update.
Good morning. Thanks to us. In the headlines, convicted murderer and rapist Thabo Bester has formally filed a court application requesting access to a laptop in order to prepare for his upcoming deportation case. The matter is set for the High Court in Johannesburg today. The Charlotte Maxeke Hospital in Johannesburg is facing water supply challenges. Joburg Waters says one of its water reservoirs in Parktown in Johannesburg is critically low to empty due to power supply and high demand. And the DA in Gauteng says it's pleased with President Cyril Ramaphosa's decision to authorize the Special Investigating Unit to probe mismanagement allegations at the Gauteng Human Settlements Department. I'll have details on these and other stories at 7.
SAFM, guiding you through the rush hour traffic.
It's pretty heavy now, coming out of Pretoria through to Joburg on the N1 highway. There's been a crash between New Road and Allendale. It's well off the road. This vehicle's crashed well off the highway, but there are some EMS vehicles, emergency vehicles on the highway in the left lane. So that plus the onlooking factor, it is pretty heavily back through to Brockfontein interchange all the way down to Allendale Road. Crash on the N3 North between Modderfontein and London. That traffic coming up from Edenvale, very heavy in towards the Alex area. The Mike 1, 2 queues this morning, Boyston through to Empire, which is normal, and then a crash up at 11th Avenue. So from Parktown into Houghton, that'll get fairly heavy. Very heavy mist around the KZN Midlands this morning, particularly along the N3 corridor. Pietermaritzburg up Moy River section, particularly around Nottingham Road, Balgowan areas. So drive carefully out that way, please. Bit of drizzle around Durban, heavier rain to the northern parts of the province as well. Cape Town side, the N2 inbound, that's fairly heavy, backlogging from the airport through to about the M5 highway at this stage. And we are just in Eastern Cape watching the N2 run into Quebec. If it's not closed today, it may be closed at some point over the next couple of days. Again, it's the full moon and the high tide concerns, with the last couple of cycles seeing that seawater up onto the N2 southbound. So if you are coming in an off-ramp to John Talon, that'll be a closure of the N2. At this stage, it looks open, though. Rob Byrne, SAFM Traffic.
This is SAFM Sport with Zai Khan.
For that, let's check in with Zai. And Zai, you're watching the Proteas women, and they've been playing against Pakistan, and you're saying it was a thriller, this T20.
Oh, Thulas, it was a nail-biting finish at the Multan Cricket Stadium. Proteas women edging out the Pakistan women by 10 runs in that T20 encounter. Tasman Brits, the star of the show, scoring a crucial unbeaten 56 to guide the Proteas women to victory. And it was a fantastic start to the series, setting the Proteas women up nicely for the upcoming Women's T20 World Cup. Rugby, Dion Davids and Kwagga Smith have emphasised the speed and the strength of Los Pumas as the Springboks ready themselves for a blockbuster clash in Argentina on Saturday. Rassie Erasmus's troops can seal their first tournament crown since 2019. This with Los Pumas and the only other team in the running with 2 rounds remaining. South Africa hold an 8-point lead at the top of the standings over Argentina. On to soccer, Chippa United, they prepare for their 2024-25 Betway Premiership season, and that's tomorrow away to Orlando Pirates. The club's boss, Siviwe Chippa Mpungesi, says his players must believe that they can win the league title. The Chile boys visit Pirates in a league opener at Orlando Stadium tomorrow evening, and they'll be hoping to shock the informed Buccaneers.
So this season we've managed to secure a very strong squad. We have our first game on Wednesday. We're playing Orlando Pirates. And I've just spoken to the players now to say they must make the people of Gqeberha proud. by beating Pirates on Wednesday. We've got nothing we want to beat them. No draw, only win.
Elsewhere, former Aston Villa striker Gary Shaw has died aged 63 from injuries sustained in a fall. He helped Villa win the 1981 league title and the European Cup in 1982. Shaw came through the youth ranks as his boyhood club and went on to score 79 goals in 213 games for Aston Villa. Boxing, the tension between Anthony Joshua and Daniel Dubois will only heighten in the days leading up to the IBF heavyweight world title fight taking place at Wembley Stadium. Joshua and Dubois had to be separated when the promotion got underway, with Frank Warren finding himself between the two giants as security guards held them back during a head-to-head interview. And finally, Olympic news. The World Athletics President, Lord Sebastian Coe, has been named as one of 7 confirmed candidates to succeed Thomas Bach as the International Olympic Committee President. Bach announced at the Paris Olympics last month he intends to stand down after the end of his second term next year. Now, Britain's 2-time Olympic 1,500-metre champion Coe, he faces competition from Spaniard Juan Antonio Samaranch Jr., France's David Lapatient, Zimbabweans Kirsty Coventry, Japan's Morinari Watanabe, Sweden's Johan Eliash and Prince Faisal Al Hussein of Jordan. Coventry is a 7-time Olympic swimming medalist and is bidding to become the first woman and African to head the IOC. More sport here on the Morning Brief. Top of the hour, I'm Zai Khan.
The Business Update on SAFM.
Good morning, Dowling. So let me just tell you a bit about myself, something you didn't know. I'm a bit of a mild aviation enthusiast. Not crazy, just mild, you know. I'm fascinated. I always look up to the skies. And I've followed the troubles at Boeing for quite some time and just went into the background. And I'm convinced that if it wasn't an American company, it wouldn't exist anymore by this point.
It wouldn't have survived considering the kind of troubles it's had from compliance to governance. It's just been really hectic for Boeing over the past few years, Thulas. And recently we had Moody's ratings even saying that with its improved financial performance, Boeing's cash flow will not be enough to cover $4.3 billion of debt coming due in 2025 and $8 billion due in 2026. So it's just been a lot happening there. But that aside, the group has now announced a number of cost-cutting measures designed to preserve cash during the ongoing strike at its factory in the US. The move includes a hiring freeze, curbs on non-essential travel, and reduced expenditures with suppliers. Now, about 33,000 factory workers down tools at a production facility in the US last week. This comes after those workers rejected a labor deal from the jetliner. In response to the strike, Boeing said it's trying to reach a fair agreement with its striking employees to get back to work, but it's highlighted that the strike is hurting business as the production at that plant has been halted. Boeing, however, has not yet assessed the financial impact of the strike, but as mentioned, it says it is open to going back to the drawing board with employee reps to discuss another deal.
Yeah, not to mention that space vehicle that has those astronauts stuck in space and they've had to be rescued one way or another. Just one of the many problems that Boeing has had in the last few years. You've got news from Gemfields, and they had an auction, but it didn't turn out to be, as they expected.
It didn't. Now, this, of course, comes as slowing demand for luxury items, mainly in China, has weighed on the company. The Gemstones and Ruby miner says it had a tough emerald auction between August and September, only selling 61% of lots, and with auction revenue more than halving to $10.8 million. The company's overall result fell short of expectations, largely due to unforeseen competition from a rival emerald producer. Now, the competitor's decision to hold a concurrent auction in early September, overlapping with Gemfields' auction, led to discounted emerald sales that undercut pricing. Now, the emeralds on offer were recovered from Gemfields' 75% owned Kagem mine in Zambia. According to Gemfields' MD for product and sales, Adrian Banks, the luxury goods diamond and gemstones markets face significant challenges due to global conflicts, the elections that have been happening around the world, and broader economic instability. In response, Gemfields is prioritizing responsible practices by withdrawing auction lots when they don't meet fair market prices. Banks also said that the commitment was evident in its recent auction, where it withheld substantial volume and value worth of lots.
Lastly, please give us a roundup of the markets, particularly in Asia, the United States, as well as a recap of how it ended on the JSE.
Starting off with yesterday's finish in the US, stocks had a mixed day as tech companies struggled. Apple in particular dragged the Nasdaq lower as traders were concerned about iPhone 16 sales. A report revealed that demand for the recently updated smartphone is lagging 2023 levels. This, of course, saw the Nasdaq close in the red. Traders on that end are, however, really focused on the Fed's potential interest rate cut. That meeting starting today with a decision being delivered tomorrow evening. In Asia, Japanese markets are back online. Traders there also focusing on monetary policy as the Bank of Japan prepares to deliver another MPC decision this week. Over in China, markets there still closed on account of a holiday. Back at home, trading mixed. The JSE all-share ending slightly higher, closing up 0.04%. The rand, in the meantime, benefiting from a weaker dollar. It's currently trading at 17.64 to the greenback.
The money lady, Ndaoleng Lechela, will be back with you just after 7:30 here on the Morning Brief with more news from the economy, as well as giving you an update on the markets.
The wait is finally over, and we can safely say that Tropica Island of Treasure is back to serve you some really great entertainment. Tune into S3 from the 28th of September to cheer on the 7 teams who will be vying to win a shared prize of 1 million rand, a brand new car each, and become the champions of Tropica Island of Treasure Season 11. Fancy 50,000 bucks? Predict the champions of Tropica Island of Treasure, and you might be sipping that cold, refreshing Tropica all the way to the bank. Follow at MyTropica and at SABC3 for more information. Channel your inner champion with Tropica Island of Treasure. Starts Saturday the 28th of September at 6:30 p.m. only on S3. Open up.
S3. So why should I use We Buy Cars if I want to sell my vehicle?
Because We Buy Cars buys cars.
But will I get the right price?
Of course. We Buy Cars buys thousands of vehicles and knows exactly what every vehicle is worth. Their buyers deliver exceptional service and pay you immediately.
And how do I know what they'll pay for my vehicle?
It's easy. Visit webuycars.co.za or use the We Buy Cars app. Follow the simple steps and voila, you'll know your car's value in no time. We Buy Cars. Quick, easy, the best.
Becoming Elizabeth is the fascinating story of the early life of England's most iconic queen. With no clear heir, the death of King Henry VIII sets into motion a dangerous scramble for power. Elizabeth's fascinating and factual journey to secure the crown is filled with scheming, betrayal, and illicit relationships that threaten to bring forth her demise. At a time in which every man or woman of the court is on the wheel of fortune, which may take them to a position of great power one moment, or the executioner's block the next. Channel your inner royalty with Becoming Elizabeth, Saturdays at 9:30 p.m. only on S3. Open up.
S3.
SAFM has signed a code of conduct that is enforced by the Broadcasting Complaints Commission of South Africa. Under the code, we are committed to giving news that is accurate, comment that is fair, and programming that is not harmful, does not amount to hate speech, or contain violence or explicit sex. If you think we are not living up to that code, then you can inform the Broadcasting Complaints Commission of South Africa. Direct any complaints in writing to the Broadcasting Complaints Commission of South Africa. PO Box 142365, Craig Hall 2024. Fax to 011-326-3198 or an email to bccsa@nabsa.co.za. For more information, please visit www.bccsa.co.za.
This Heritage Month, SAFM invites you to celebrate the rich tapestry of our nation's diverse cultures. From the vibrant beats of our traditional music to the flavors of our unique cuisines, every culture tells a story of strength, unity, and identity. We honor the heroes and heroines who laid down their lives for our freedom, reminding us that our shared heritage is what makes us strong. Together as one, we celebrate who we are because our culture is our identity. This Heritage Month, let's celebrate every culture, every story, and every voice. Call Thulasizwe now, 086 000 2032.
Let's focus on health news for a moment, shall we? The Gauteng Department of Health says it is preparing its healthcare facilities to meet the required standards in preparation for the National Health Insurance, NHI. The department says currently 22 out of 36 community health centers inspected were found to be compliant, and 14 of the 37 hospitals inspected have also been certified as compliant. Additionally, it says 263 of the 349 primary healthcare centers have met compliance standards. For more on this, I am joined now by Xolani Kalada, who is Deputy Director General for Infrastructure at the Department of Health in Gauteng. Good morning, Xolani. I've got to thank you for your time. So what exactly do you mean when you say that a facility is NHI ready? What standard do you use to measure that?
Good morning, Thulasizwe, and good morning to your viewers. There are standards that have been approved. One, it includes what we call occupational health and safety compliance, which means in terms of the facility itself, do you have all of those things that makes the building to be compliant? For an example, do you have your escape doors, your fire extinguishers, and all of that, so that in cases of emergencies, then there is you are able to evacuate patients safely. And also, when we say compliant, just general in terms of the building requirements of that particular facility. If, for an example, there's sufficient light and all of those things. So that's the compliant. But it's a detailed checklist that we go through and make sure that we evaluate the institution vis-a-vis that particular checklist. So as we've indicated, those are the numbers that so far that are being found to be compliant. What are we doing with the rest that are not compliant? We have put a program in place to make sure that all of the outstanding, particularly when it comes to the issues around OHS, it's quite a huge thing. If you would recall, Thulasizwe, when the fire happened at the Bank of Lisbon, one of the things that was indicated and flagged there was that our building was not fire and occupational health compliant.
But here's the challenge you're going to face, Xolani, yes. And let me come in there. The challenge you're going to face is that OHS should be standard. Compliance with OHS should be standard. The SABC knows this. Every other company knows this. A hospital, a clinic is really about delivering services, front-facing services to the patients. And we have seen some horror stories, and I don't need to remind you of the stories we were seeing coming from Helen Joseph just last week from Tom London, where objectively, whatever you could say and impute motive to him, as I've seen some commentary doing, but you could not run away from the fact that the infrastructure was not up to par.
Yes. No, we agree with that. And if you talk about Helen Joseph, immediately after Mr. London shared that video, as a team, particularly the infrastructure, we immediately dispersed and went to the facility and look what are the things that have been raised. And indeed, we found that some of the things that Mr. Rudevin raised. For an example, the issues around some of the ablution facilities and so forth, which you acknowledged. But in general, in terms of the services, in terms of the infrastructure, that infrastructure that is at Helen Joseph, as we speak, I can tell you and share with the viewers, it's an infrastructure that is sufficient, that enable the proper service delivery and quality healthcare. Yes, there are areas and the gaps in terms of maintenance work, which we are attending to. For an example, immediately after that, we dispersed a team to say those areas, particularly in Ward 8, where Mr. London was kept, to say, let's deal with that, because one of the issues was that the infrastructure was old, broken toilets and so forth, which is things that we think are low-hanging, we can immediately attend to and we disperse.
Another pressing issue, and I think there's an infrastructure element to it, has been around the oncology services and radiation, where you faced protests earlier on around Charlotte Maxeke. Xolani, why does it need people to protest and make videos for the government to address things that should be as normal as breathing for you as government officials? Oncology is hugely important for those people who use public health services. So how far are you with sorting out that issue, for instance, from a infrastructure perspective?
Yes, from an infrastructure perspective, you would understand, Thulasizwe, there are two sites that will be, or two oncology centers that will be constructing as the department. The one is in Dr. George Mkari and the other is Chris Hani Baragwanath. So where are we? We have concluded the appointment of DBSA as of overall project manager, and we have already appointed the contractor. The construction program will take us 16 months, and then from there we'll then be able to receive the first patient. Site establishment, as we speak, it's ongoing. Stakeholder engagement around those particular communities and all the affected stakeholders, it's ongoing. So that is part of the thing that we've accelerated. Why was the delay? The issue around the contracting for this particular oncology has been quite difficult. Hence, we went to bring in DBSA with those expertise to be able that whatever rand and cents that we spend in there's value for that. So we had to get those expertise, and hence we have brought in DBSA.
All right, I've got to thank you for your time and your insights. We do wish you all of the best. When you succeed, we are better for it. But of course, we do need to keep an eye to make sure that you as government don't need to be reminded of the basics that you should be getting right. That is Xolani Kalada there, who is the Deputy Director General for Infrastructure at the Gauteng Department of Health.
SAFM, guiding you through the rush hour traffic.
It's a very busy one around Gauteng highways this morning. Some routes you really want to sort of avoid, or at least make sure you're aware of it and give yourself plenty of time to get through. One is the N1 South, the big one this morning between Pretoria and Joburg. Crashed just after New Road towards Allendale. Vehicle off the road, but EMS guys up on top there blocking a left lane. Very heavy queues all the way from Brockfontein to Allendale effectively. That's heavy. Going north is also the matter of a bit of onlooking, I guess, and a breakdown, a stationary truck at New Road. So if you're heading through Midrand towards Pretoria, that's quite busy. Before you get there, there's a crash on the N1 from Rivonia linking onto the N1 North at Midrand through the Clue. So that N1 onto the N1, if you like. That's a little bit of a hold-up. And a major delay out of Germiston all the way up through Galulis towards a crash on the N3 North between Modderfontein Road and London Road. That traffic effectively starting at Elands interchange with no gaps right the way through to Alex. Behind that, the N12 and R24, it's in from Ekurhuleni, quite heavy. And you've got the normal sort of Tuesday morning backlogs from Boysons up on the Mike 1 towards Empire Road, and shortly thereafter, once you just get out of that traffic, you're back into it again, into a crash up by 11th Avenue. Also, just in the Ekurhuleni region again, no lights on Ritzfontein and North Rand Road. That caused major problems yesterday. It is starting to back things up out of Boksburg this morning. Misty between Moy River and Pietermaritzburg. Drive very carefully along that section of the N3. Bit more rain today and across the rest of the week for Durban and surrounding areas. So, again, road safety absolutely vital that you keep that top of mind. Cape Town all fairly busy. Good indication of that. The M5, that's backing up from Parkwood all the way up to the N2. The M3's backed up at Constantia, and the N1 into town very slow already from Plattekloof Hill through to Kuburg. Get a change. Rob Byrne, SAFM Traffic.
18 teams are back on the hunting ground. No one wants a loss or a draw. They are all searching for maximum points in every encounter. This is the Bundesliga. Football as it's meant to be. Do not miss out on the 2024-2025 Bundesliga season. Catch the action live on Saturdays at 6:30 p.m.
live on SABC Sport on DTT Channel 4 and at your fingertips on SABC Plus. Also available on sabcsport.com. Proudly brought to you by SABC Sport.
For the love of the game.
Are you blowing your paycheck on car insurance every month? Monica, 39 from Three Rivers, pays just 1,515 Rand a month for a 2018 BMW 320i.
Give our children a call. It's a win-win. You can't lose.
Real savings, real benefits. Here's Yusuf.
Help it out. The service was quick. Absolutely phenomenal service from our children.
SMS out to 30754 now. That's out to 30754. Outsurance is a licensed insurer and FSP. T's and C's online.
Weeknights on S3 are anything but ordinary. BBC Primetime brings you the best of British television from 9 p.m. till 11 p.m. Open your mind to Life on Death Row, Thursdays at 9 p.m. and Resistance in a Hostile Environment, a 3-part documentary showcasing turning points which would go on to define race relations in the UK for a generation. Thursdays at 10 p.m. Wind down your weeknights with The Outlaws, Fridays at 9 p.m. and explore the world's most dangerous roads at 10 p.m. Channel your best entertainment with BBC Primetime, only on S3. Open up.
S3.
This Heritage Month, SAFM invites you to celebrate the rich tapestry of our nation's diverse cultures. From the vibrant beats of our traditional music to the flavors of our unique cuisines, every culture tells a story of strength, unity, and identity. We honor the heroes and heroines who laid down their lives for our freedom, reminding us that our shared heritage is what makes us strong. Together as one, we celebrate who we are because our culture is our identity. This Heritage Month, let's celebrate every culture, every story, and every voice.
SAFM 104 to 107 nationwide, leading the conversation.
Call Thulasizwe now, 086 000 2032.
All right, let's take a few of your voice notes now and engage with them as we lead the conversation.
Good morning, Thulas. Tell me, which hospitals is that man talking about in Gauteng? Or is he talking about Melpark hospitals where these thieves of ANC are getting their health services from? He must not come here and lie. Go to all the hospitals that the apartheid government gave to the ANC, which was functional. They are just on the ground, all of them. Nothing is working.
Thulasizwe is the same. It's not like they are pitting Africans against each other. There will be only 2 opportunities, even if you increase it to 3. You have to still find out who of the African 52 countries, 50 plus, can go in. Not all of them can go at the same time. So whether you call it pitting or what, it's up to Africans themselves. But anyway, you are talking about the countries that cannot enforce the law. US has got vetoes and like others, but it's not that they don't enforce. South Africa also, al-Bashir came and he left. We did nothing. He left through the back door. So you can't think that it's only America. Even us, even any member, because at some stage they veto against. So it's the same to everyone. We are all selective. We sometimes look at our best interest. God.
Hi, SAFM. This is Daniel Joshua Children with my view and my opinion as far as the infrastructure of the health facilities are concerned in this country. We must not look at certain hospitals and places that are well done and well maintained. They must look at all facilities. I challenge Tulani to get to some of the clinics and see where patients are standing outside in long queues, not even got a seat to go into the clinic. They got to stand in long queues and outside out in the weather, whether it rains or whether it's cold. So you must go and check all these things out and ensure that patients that are sick coming to the clinic and to the hospitals have proper facilities for them even to be relaxed while the doctor takes hours, maybe the next day they've got to come in. Thank you and God bless you.
Hey folks, I'm loving the variety of your views coming through there. Let me quickly squeeze in a call. And am I speaking to 007, James Bond in KZN? You want to talk about Helen Joseph Hospital. Good morning.
Morning. Yes, the one and only. Just a bit of insight. I've been privy to a lot of shenanigans that happen in the public sector countrywide. I've been in the public sector for the last, 30-odd years. And I can tell you that it's not because of a lack of solutions or lack of IT systems to help in terms of asset management and so forth, but it's more a lack of will to implement policy in order to rectify a lot of the shortfalls in public sector. So whether we're talking about hospitals, whether we're talking about municipalities, it's the same issue. There's no accountability. Officials that are appointed don't do their work. They feel that, we're doing them a favor by them helping us, or they're doing us a favor rather. But it's absolutely despicable, the state of our state-owned entity, the state of our hospitals.
All right, I've got to thank you for that. Yeah. No, thank you so much, James Bond, out in KZN. They're talking about the political will and accountability, saying that's the missing link in as far as maintaining our hospitals is concerned. At 7 a.m., let's go back to N. Musa at the news desk with the latest.
In our top stories, Thabo Bester files court application to seek access to a laptop, and DA Western Cape warns extortionists targeting social workers. Good morning. Convicted murderer and rapist Thabo Bester has formally filed a court application requesting access to a laptop in order to prepare for his upcoming deportation case. The matter is set for the High Court in Johannesburg today. Bester is currently facing charges of escaping from the Mangaung Correctional Centre in Bloemfontein in May 2022, fled to Tanzania with his girlfriend Nandipa Magudumana. They were arrested and deported to South Africa. The trial of Bester, Magudumana and several prison officers accused of helping him escape has been set for the 10th of February next year. The Democratic Alliance in the Western Cape has warned extortionists are now demanding protection fees from social workers. The party says it's also concerned about the increased attacks on social workers. The Western Cape Social Development Department is reportedly spending 20 million rand on overtime to double up social workers operating in high-risk areas. Wendy Kaiser-Philander is the DA's chairperson for the Standing Committee on Social Development in the Western Cape Provincial Legislature.
One can't even begin to comprehend as to why something like this would even happen. The attacks on social workers, whether it's physical hijackings, were on the increase, assaults as well. We heard now that also extortion of social workers is also now something that we need to be concerned about. From what we've gathered is that whilst social workers are in the vulnerable communities doing their very crucial and important job, they are now threatened and asked they should give money or they will be hurt.
The Charlotte Maxeke Hospital in Johannesburg is facing water supply challenges. Joburg Water says one of its water reservoirs in Parktown in Johannesburg is critically low to empty due to poor supply and high demand. The water utility says its technical teams were dispatched to the hospital to investigate and boost water supply. Joburg Water spokesperson Nolwazi Dlamini says the Berea Reservoir has declined and the Dunkel Reservoir is critically low to empty.
Johannesburg Water is closely monitoring all three reservoirs and making necessary adjustments to improve the situation. Alternative water supply will be arranged for affected customers as and when it becomes necessary.
The DA in Gauteng says it's pleased with President Cyril Ramaphosa's decision to authorize the Special Investigating Unit to probe mismanagement allegations at the Gauteng Human Settlements Department. The SIU investigation will look into the awarding of 2 tenders by the department. The DA's Mervyn Sirota hopes this will not be another prolonged investigation that leads to no prosecution.
The proclamation authorises the SAU, an independent statutory body that investigates allegations of corruption of government-run institutions to recover any financial losses suffered by the state. All corruption and maladministration must be dealt with as soon as possible, and the culprits must be brought to justice. Gauteng people have the right to know whether there were any instances of corruption, fraud or maladministration in the allocation of the 2 tenders by the Gauteng Department of Human Settlements.
And finally, U.S. law enforcement says the suspect arrested in connection with the latest assassination attempt against former President Donald Trump did not fire his weapon and did not have Trump in his sights before he was engaged by the Secret Service. 58-year-old Ryan Wesley Ruth made his first court appearance. He was engaged on the perimeter of the golf course where Trump was playing a round of golf on Sunday. Showan Bryce Peace reports.
Faced an initial 2 charges in relation to him being a convicted felon for earlier gun-related charges and robbery. But the U.S. attorney is pursuing additional charges as the investigation continues. Part of the FBI's investigation includes forensics on the weapon and reviewing the suspect's cell phone data, his online social media presence, while Secret Service agents, eyewitnesses and friends, family and former colleagues of the suspect were also being questioned and interviewed. The FBI indicated that Routh had spent 12 hours in the vicinity of the golf course before he was spotted by the Secret Service.
Recapping the top story, convicted murderer and rapist Thabo Bester has formally filed a court application requesting access to a laptop in order to prepare for his upcoming deportation case. The matter is set for the High Court in Johannesburg today. For SAFM News, I'm Anne Musa.
SAFM, guiding you through the rush hour traffic.
Heavy delays on the run through from Pretoria to Joburg this morning. Crash on the side of the N1 South between New Road and Allendale. Traffic's backed heavily into the Brockfontein interchange, and that queue literally growing by the minute back towards John Foster Drive. A lot of traffic on the R101. Old Joburg Road as motorists come out of that N1 and jam that route between Centurion and Midrand. And then if you're heading north, there's a broken down truck by New Road. So if you're on your way to Pretoria, there's quite a heavy backlog from Allendale Road. Crash on the N1 North onto the N1 North. So from Rivonia for a turn up through Buccleuch towards Midrand. You're queuing there as well. Collision scene on the N3 North between Modderfontein and London Road. That's a heavy queue this morning that starts right back at Elands interchange in Germiston. N12 and R24 it's in from the east are under pressure as well. And a crash near 11th Avenue causing a pushback on the Mike 1 right as far back as the Boysons area. Very misty this morning. Nottingham Road area of the N3 through the Midlands, Pietermaritzburg, Moy River. You need to be careful and cautious out there. The N2's already queuing heavily up the run through the roadwork. So from the M7 up towards Westwood Mall, and of course there is some rain and wet weather conditions across Durban and much of KZN province, particularly northern areas today. Cape Town Marine Drive again very heavy into Loxton Road at Woodbridge Island, and a crash to watch for on Montague Drive at Bosman's Dam Road, busy junction this time of morning. With your traffic update, I'm Rob Byrne.
A very good morning to you. In your SFM Sports headlines, there's plenty of action to look forward to as we build up to the Springboks, who are in Argentina for a potential rugby championship title defending showdown against Los Pumas. And we have cricket action. The Proteas women kicking off their T20 series against Pakistan with a 10-run victory. Details around 7:30.
The Morning Brief with Thulasizwe Simelane. Weekdays, Monday to Friday, 6 to 9 a.m. The Morning Brief with Thulasizwe Simelane. Weekdays, Monday to Friday, 6 to 9 a.m.
Hey, good morning, South Africa. This is the Morning Brief on SAFM on this Tuesday morning. All the local and international news, current affairs, insights and opinions you need to lead the conversation today, carefully curated and packaged for you. I'm Thulasizwe Simelane. Coming up in this hour, the Department of Higher Education and Training says it is reviewing the National Student Financial Aid Scheme funding model to improve its systems and reduce the glitches. You'll know, of course, that the opening date for the applications for 2025 was moved from yesterday to Friday. We'll talk to the NSFAS in the next few minutes. Also, another conversation conversation coming up as South Africa continues to have discussions around the role of nuclear energy in our energy mix. The Electricity and Energy Minister, Thulasizwe Simelane, is currently leading the country's participation at the International Atomic Energy Agency's 68th General Conference in Vienna, Austria. So we'll put the conversation around nuclear under the spotlight in the next few minutes as well. And of course, we have all of your regulars, and Musa with news updates every half hour, Rob Byrne with your traffic every 15 minutes or so, Zaikan watching your sport throughout the morning, and Ndauleng Lechela has your economics, business and market news covered. We are taking your calls. The number to dial is 086 000 2032. And you can also send us a WhatsApp voice note on 061 410 4107. The second hour of the morning brief on SAFM starts now.
Hey, you know, Ntwana, if I could, I'd fly to Dubai.
Here we go again.
First class, Exeni. Ngithi shwe. Get myself a V12 Beast and a mansion with Instagram-worthy views.
You don't even have Instagram.
Imagine seeing the city skyline from my bedroom, watching MasterChef SA while I have my very own MasterChef in my kitchen. Forget the queues at the cinema. I'd have one in my crib, Joe. I'm talking 7.1 surround sound and a 120-inch 8K TV whilst I'm sipping on some grapes. I'm talking luxury, Ntwana. What do you know about that? Let me school you, bro. Tune into Dubai, Buying the Dream. Saturdays at 8:30 p.m. on S3. And channel your inner luxury. Only on S3. Open up.
S3. And we went on a water safari, and Mom spotted a hippo, and it said...
There is a place where you can see wonder and the wild, with breathtaking scenery and endless landscapes. Enjoy good food and embrace great taste.
And the next day we went to the Reed dance. I saw the maidens handing over reeds to the mighty Zulu king, and the Zulu warriors chanting, Baye!
Explore all this and more in the magical Zulu Kingdom.
This message is brought to you by KZN Tourism and Film Authority.
The world's best cooking show is finally here. MasterChef South Africa Season 5. You'll meet 20 talented home cooks from around Mzansi, Noma Upumaphi, and no matter your favorite dish. See if the chefs can handle the heat in the kitchen in a race to be crowned MasterChef South Africa. Every Saturday, 7:30 p.m. only on S3, Channel 193. MasterChef South Africa, the world's best cooking show, proudly sponsored by Pick n Pay.
The only talk radio morning breakfast show that makes sense. The Morning Brief with Thulasizwe Simelane.
All right, this conversation is of critical importance given the number of people that depend on the National Student Financial Aid Scheme. Well, the Department of Higher Education and Training says it is reviewing the scheme's funding model to improve its systems and reduce glitches. Yesterday, the Minister, Nobuhle Nkabane, announced that Friday, the 20th of September, is the new date to open the 2025 online NSFAS application intake. The application window had originally been scheduled to open yesterday. Its postponement comes as the minister says the department had to conduct extensive consultation with various stakeholders, including student formations and institutions, on how NSFAS systems can be improved. I'm joined now by the spokesperson for the NSFAS, and that's Ishmael Mnisi. Ishmael, good morning. I've got to thank you for your time. What consultation and fixing of systems will you achieve with a 4-day postponement that you could not do in a 365-day window since the last window period closed?
Thank you very much, Thulasizwe. Maybe just to explain the consultation. It was to take our stakeholders through the application forms that we have, the improved system, so that they too understand how the process will unfold. So it was not your normal consultation on policies or any other related matters as that. But we thought, because of the magnitude of the application season this period around, we wanted all hands on deck, that the student political formation, student leadership structures, the SRCs and everyone must help their stakeholders, our stakeholders as students who apply to NSFAS, for them to be able to apply correctly. Because we are noticing throughout the application processes that the majority of students do not understand the NSFAS requirements. So we thought that talking to the leadership of the institutions, both the VCs, the principals of TVET colleges will enhance this process better.
Correct me if I'm wrong, Ishmael. My impression is not that there are no problems in the application phase. There are, I suppose, from time to time. But my impression has been that the problems arise after the application, at the point at which NSFAS is supposed to disburse funding and pay for accommodation and the allowances, whatever allowances are paid. That's where the real challenge seems to be.
Of course, there are challenges of disbursements of allowances after we have confirmed funding. But the challenges with the system begins at the point of the application. Mm-hmm. Let me make this example. If you apply to NSFAS and you do not provide us with the details that we require, it prohibits NSFAS from proceeding with your application instantly. And that then affects the timing of the feedback that we'll give you. For an example, we will have to come back to you and ask you to give us the details of your parents or the financials of your parents or your guardians who are responsible for you as a student. Now, if you provide us that information in March, when the academic years began, that delays the feedback that will arise from NSFAS. Now, that's why we had to explain this application process. And sure. Moreover, this year, because we have modernized our systems, we now are online to explain to the student leadership, to explain to VCs, to explain to TVET college principals that this is how it's going to work, and institutions can also explain that to students or even for themselves to understand the system so that we can expedite the processes of making funding decisions in 2025.
Tell me how you are working with the South African Social Security Agency and the Department of Home Affairs as part of your verification systems. Is it a new system, that collaboration, or has it always been there, a sort of all-of-government approach to managing the data that the state has on recipients of the Social Security net?
We have a very good working relationship with SASSA and the Department of Home Affairs and also SARS in helping us to verify information that is provided by the applicant. And this relationship has been ongoing for the past 3 years, so it's not a new relationship. What we are doing is to enhance that relationship and to have a seamless process between all the agencies that I've just mentioned now. So for SASSA students, all those applicants who are receiving our social grants, when we do their assessment, they get automatic approval. Why? Because we tap into the SASSA database and we can see that the applicant is a receiver of a grant of the state. So we'll simply continue with providing the bursary in the form of that student as the recipient of the grant. So they receive automatic feedback because of their SASSA recipients. Now, for the non-SASSA recipients, then Home Affairs comes into play because we then verify the parental details of the learner to sure. In order for us to then link it with SARS in terms of the financial eligibility. Remember, for you to qualify for the bursary,
right.
The joint income of your parents must be 350,000 per annum and less. Now, we take that detail from Home Affairs, which they would have verified the parent.
Right.
Then we go to SARS, and SARS gives us whether your parents
Sure.
are working or not, or within the brackets that we're looking for. So we have a very
Lastly, Ishmael,
working
I've got to
relations.
ask you this though. All the efforts you are outlining to try and streamline the processes and systems and serve students better will not be served. In fact, will be undercut by this impression that you are engaging in largesse, really, the rental of 2.5 million rand at the offices in the city of Cape Town. That's problematic. That doesn't help your image. That doesn't present you as people who are attuned to the realities of students. If you're spending a lot of money on rental of a building that, by your own admission, is inadequate even for your own needs.
Well, Thulasizwe, the issue of the procurement of the agreement that we currently have for our head offices in Cape Town has been explained several times, and the documentation made available to the Department and Treasury in terms of how that process unfolded. And the issue of location, in that context has been explained. However, the challenge is the accessibility of that building, and of course, the costs that are now becoming a challenge, given the fact that we are constrained financially. And this is the reason why the minister has proposed that we need to centralize our services in order to cover the big, provinces where institutions are infested, which is Gauteng, Eastern Cape, KZN, where we'll open offices. But also to say that if we do so, then there's no need for NSFAS to have all their staff centralized in Cape Town and occupying that building.
Okay.
It's an argument that we have taken as very valid, and that is why we are reviewing our operating model and including the termination of that contract.
All right, I've got to thank you for your time this morning. That is the spokesperson of the National Student Financial Aid Scheme, Ishmael Mnisi, talking to me here on the Morning Brief this morning.
The world's best football league makes its return to S3. Will Arsenal finally win their first title since 2004? Or will Man City continue their dominance of the league and win their 7th title under Pep Guardiola? Will the Dutchman in Erik ten Hag and Arne Slot have something to say as Man United and Liverpool step in to contest for the title? But it's not only about winning the title. For some of the 20 teams, it's a chance to improve on their performances from last season. While for others, it's the battle to avoid relegation and stay in the top flight. Every team has a point to prove. This is not just football. This is a masterpiece being played out every weekend. Channel your best sport with the English Premier League. Saturdays at 3 p.m. on S3. Open up.
Team Atlanta ladies are focused on full points as they chase a suitable position in the top half. But UWC want to triumph and pressurize log leaders. This is the Hollywood Bet Super League. Catch Mzansi Queens of the beautiful game. Team Atlanta Ladies FC versus UWC Ladies FC on Saturday 21 September at 8:30 a.m. Live on SABC Sport on DTT Channel 4. Also available at your fingertips on SABC Plus and SABCSport.com. Brought to you by SABC Sport. For the love of the game.
Okay. They actually did it. I mean, I've seen it done in other countries, but now they have a whole new local season of the show. Oh, Mzansi, you beautiful, amazing land with diverse families and cultures. Wife Swap South Africa is finally here. Tune in from Monday the 9th of September and see how families from across South Africa swap wives and learn a thing or two or three on how other families operate. There will be disruptions, lessons learned, tears, and smiles in this unique and insightful social experiment. Channel your best entertainment with Wife Swap, Mondays at 6 p.m. only on S3. Open up.
You are listening to the Morning Brief with Thulasizwe Simelane.
So let's talk about the country's energy mix and particularly the role of nuclear therein. As South Africa continues to have discussions around nuclear energy, the Electricity and Energy Minister, Thulasizwe Simelane, is currently leading South Africa's participation at the International Atomic Energy Agency's 68th General Conference in Vienna, Austria. The International Atomic Energy Agency serves as the world's foremost intergovernmental forum for scientific and technical cooperation in the peaceful use of nuclear energy. The event will take place over the course of the week. Last week, you will remember that the minister affirmed that nuclear energy remains in the mix to ensure that the country's energy security. Let me bring into the conversation now the power and energy expert, Vali Padayachi, who is also a former executive manager at Eskom and City Power. Vali, good morning. I've got to thank you for your time. So talk to me about the significance of the minister attending this particular conference in Vienna, Austria, but also off the back of him affirming that nuclear remains firmly part of the mix to the tune of some 2,500 megawatts.
Good morning to the Minister and thank you. I think the visit of the Minister to the International Atomic Energy Agency
Vali, my apologies. Can I ask you to just move around a little bit? Your signal is breaking, and I would really want the full benefit of the inputs that you are making. Let's see if you are in a better situation now. No, we are battling. We are absolutely battling. Let's see if we can get Vali on a better line there. Vali Padayachi weighing in on the minister's visit and taking part in the International Atomic Energy Agency's 68th General Conference, and that's happening in Austria, Vienna. So this comes off the back, of course, of the Minister of Electricity and Energy, Thulasizwe Simelane, last week affirming that the processes will forge ahead to procure up to 2,500 megawatts of nuclear energy in a process that he is vowing would be clean, transparent and democratic, and that will determine the pace and scale of nuclear that the country can afford. I believe we have Vali on a better line now. Vali, you were making the point about the importance of the minister's participation at the IAEA's conference against the backdrop of those confirmations that there is a space for nuclear in our energy mix.
Yes, I think that visit by the Minister to the 68th General Assembly or Conference is critical. Obviously, South Africa is a member of the IAEA, so hence that visit is important. But also, as you say, the Minister and the Ministry has made it clear that nuclear is going to be part of the energy mix, in the South African energy mix going forward. It is government policy like renewables, and hence it makes a lot of sense. And importantly, nuclear, and just to get to the point, is required to ensure that South Africa reaches inter alia its net zero targets by 2050. You cannot achieve that only with solar and wind to us for various reasons.
Yeah. So, Vali, during the Jacob Zuma administration years, the talk around that time was on a pace and scale we can afford. And I remember the questions there were around the size of the procurement of nuclear. 9.5 gigawatts was the figure bandied about, and I could never really establish the accuracy thereof. This time around, we're talking about 2,500 megawatts as far as the minister is concerned. Is that within pace and scale we can afford? And what's the basis on which we judge that, the pace and scale that we can afford?
The pace and scale will be judged, and this is also according to the minister, very quite clear, is what the country can afford. Meaning that based on the fiscus's capability and ability to fund this project, that will determine the pace and scale. But having said that, so Thulasizwe, talking as an engineer and as a business person, the affordability of nuclear, and I call it modern nuclear, new nuclear, is far favorable than previous years. And here I'm talking about the use of SMRs, small modular reactor technologies, which can be, you can use it from 300 megawatts and above, and to get to the point, if you can get PPAs from 25 years to 50 years, and with those kind of PPAs, off-balance sheet funding, and it can be funded by vendors. South Africa can just procure the economic output, so it can be affordable, and I'm of the opinion we can reach pace and scale rather sooner than later.
But isn't government's job of planning around these issues around Nuclear Valley, isn't it made infinitely difficult by the fact that our integrated resource plan is out of date, and by government's own admission a bit earlier on in the year, in fact, I think it was the Director General of the Department of Mineral Resources and Energy at the time, who was saying each day that passes by, this information and our matrices of planning are falling out of date, and that was early in the year. We are now in September.
No, I agree. I mean, it is out of date. I mean, this 2,500 megawatts was part of the 2019 IRP, and there is a draft 2023 plan on the card. It should be released rather sooner than later. But having said that, Thulas, we must be very careful. This energy landscape is changing so rapidly that the IRP needs to keep pace with that. So I think the ministry is cognizant of that, and I think in the 2023 IRP, we will see nuclear. I can't vouch for that. I'm not privy to that level of detail. But it will be in keeping with government policy, and again, it will be in keeping with pace and size
that we can afford.
Plus, yes.
All right. I've got to thank you for your time and your insights this morning on the Morning Brief. That is Vali Padayachi, who is a power and energy expert, but also a former executive manager at Eskom and City Power. Let's check in now at 7:30 with Ann Musa with the latest news headlines.
Good morning. Thanks to us. In the headlines, the Charlotte Maxeke Hospital in Johannesburg will be prioritizing emergency cases and divert all elective surgeries to nearby facilities due to water supply challenges. Joburg Water says one of its water reservoirs in Parktown in Johannesburg is critically low to empty due to poor supply and high demand. Convicted murderer and rapist Thabo Bestis today approaching the High Court in Pretoria, requesting access to a laptop in order to prepare for his upcoming deportation case. And the Democratic Alliance in the Western Cape has warned extortionists are now demanding protection fees from social workers. The party says it's also concerned about the increased attacks on social workers. I'll have details on these and other stories at 8.
SAFM, guiding you through the rush hour traffic.
I think Pretoria to Joburg this morning, a crash on the M1 South before Allendale Road. Traffic's backed all the way to John Foster. The highway is really busy. It's causing delays on Samrand, on Olifants, on New Road, just trying to get out of Midrand and into that N1. The old Joburg Road, heavily back coming off the N1 at Centurion into Midrand as motorists hunt for alternatives. Very heavy pressure on your way to Joburg and generally through Midrand. Crash on the N3 opposite Alexandra, so from Germiston's Elands interchange all the way through to London Road, it's heavy. N12 and R24 routes in from Ekurhuleni, really jammed up into Galilee's trying to get into that N3 North as well. Also crash on the M1 North on the ramp to the N1 for a turn towards Midrand. So from Rivonia Road, all backed up into Buccleuch interchange. Rain and mist across Durban and much of KZN this morning. Please continue to drive carefully. The N2's heavy from the M7 all the way to Umgeni Road this morning. M13 Hillcrest to Kloof looking quite slow coming through Maytime and Gillets and what have you. And Cape Town today, N1 backing up from Durban Road at Belleville all the way through to the city centre, and Marine Drive again heavy. We've seen this since last Friday. Queuing traffic coming into Woodbridge Island, Loxton Road Junction. You're under pressure as you leave Tableview. With your traffic update, I'm Rob Byrne.
This is SAFM Sport with Zai Khan.
All right, Zai, I don't like the comparisons between wild animals here because I don't know in the wilderness and out there in the wild, I don't know if it would stack up, but in the field of rugby, it does stack up, doesn't it? The Springboks versus the Pumas.
Yeah, there's a hunt for the rugby championship title.
The Springboks are hunting.
Yes, they are.
Okay.
And, I think they're already in Argentina as we speak. This is one of the penultimate matches of the rugby championships against the host Argentina. So Rassie Erasmus, his troops, they're looking to seal their first tournament crown since 2019 with Los Pumas, the only other team in the running with 2 rounds remaining. Here's our assistant coach, Dion Davids, acknowledging the formidable challenge posted by Los Pumas.
The reason for being in Buenos Aires is because we're quite familiar with the surroundings, where we stay, the training facilities. It just gives us an opportunity to adapt and to do our work without any other disturbances around us. And then I think we still have enough time when we leave here to adapt quite well to where we're going to play.
Let's go to the Springbok women now. Their coach, Sveste de Bruin, has made 2 changes to the starting team for the match against Spain happening in Cape Town Stadium. That's on Thursday. Libby Janse van Rensburg and Aziza Mvika will start at fullback and tight head prop, having been promoted from the bench.
Look, continuity will be the buzzword. Myself and the coaches, we need to know the players more, in their positions and certain combinations. And especially the one change, I want to try Libby at 15, or not we, trying Libby at 15, on the playmaking department. Otherwise, we will definitely make changes as we carry on to test combinations.
Let's go to cricket action that saw Tasman Britt scoring a well-paced half-century as she set up the Proteas women's team for a 10-run victory over the Pakistan women in their T20 international match at the Multan Cricket Stadium in Pakistan last night. South Africa leads the 3-match series 1-0. The visitors, who were asked to bat first, fought their way to 132 for 4, and Pakistan replied with a total of 122 for 5. Soccer. SABC Sport has established that Mamelodi Sundowns and defender Grant Kekana has entered into an agreement over a long-term contract to keep the Bafana Bafana star at Kloorkop beyond June 2026. The 2 parties have been involved in ongoing discussions for several months now on the back of Kekana being crowned the defender of the season, and that's at the end of the 2023-24 campaign. Sundowns were once again winners of the DStv Premiership, which has now been taken over by Betway as the title sponsor. Kekana joined the Brazilians from their crosstown rivals SuperSport United, and that was in July 2021 on a 5-year contract as confirmed by his new club. And finally, tennis news. Yannick Sinner has hired Novak Djokovic's former fitness coach Marco Panici in the wake of the world number 1 Sinner being cleared despite testing positive twice for a banned substance. The pair, they replaced Umberto Ferreira and Gianco Monaldi, respectively, who Sinner parted ways before his US Open win after the 2 positive doping tests in March. And that's where we'll leave it for now on the Morning Brief Sport. Headlines top of the hour. I'm Sai Khan.
The Business Update on SAFM.
And for that, let's turn to Ndauling Lechela. And Ndauling, in this hour, you're looking at company news. And the first one that you are looking at is African Rainbow Capital. You're saying that investee companies have boosted its performance. How?
So the investment company backed by Patrice Motsepe has seen solid returns from the likes of Rain and Time Bank, which have helped it deliver a solid performance. During the annual period, the intrinsic net asset value per share jumped 8.5%. This is a preferred measure of progress or of success used by many investment companies. Now, in terms of contributions, Rain reported gains of about 600 million rand and Time Bank posted 1.2 2 billion rand in gains. Now, ARC backs disruptive startups in financial services and telecoms and has a diverse portfolio of listed and unlisted assets valued at 20.2 billion rand. The group continues to see value in Rain and Timeback, and so it's invested further into those assets, pumping 126 million rand into Rain and 169 million rand into Time Group. The firm, in the meantime, has acknowledged that some of its portfolio companies faced challenging trading conditions due to elevated interest rates, high unemployment, reduced consumer spending, and volatile foreign exchange. Despite these headwinds, ARC's diverse investment portfolio remained resilient, with over 80% of its holdings now in mature or high-growth companies, making the firm more optimistic about its future earnings.
Speaking of headwinds, Ndawuleng, Metrofile is facing those by way of high costs.
Yes, the document and storage company not really faring well in its annual period. Revenue rising 1%, but earnings halving on the back of a tough operating environment. Metrofile says the results were negatively affected by three key factors: rising interest rates putting pressure on finances, investments to retain customers in the UAE increased costs, and internal process challenges within its South African scanning centers, MRMSA, eroded margins and reduced profitability. Metrofile also had to account for a 54 million rand impairment, which was accounted for in its operations in Kenya, as well as retrenchment costs with 16.6 million rand. Despite the downbeat financial performance, the group is positive about its prospects, saying it's getting more contracts, recording an increase over the past month, particularly in secure storage and digitization. Requests there are coming through in its business that operates those operations. It's called IPC. Metrofile also says they're also seeing promising activity in the public sector, which it expects to lead to higher sales conversions next year.
Please recap for us then Asia markets, the US futures, as well as how the JSE performed yesterday.
So starting off in Asia, markets, they are in the red. It seems like traders are holding off from making any bets as focus shifts to monetary policy decisions. The Japanese Nikkei taking the biggest knock there, down over 1.7%. Over in Wall Street, US futures pretty flat as investors look for some sort of direction ahead of those big meetings this week. Traders back at home also eyeing a big rates decisions, particularly from the SARB. Ahead of that move, local markets closed flat in yesterday's trading session, with the all share gaining a tepid 0.04%, driven by gains from the Resources 10 complex, which ended the day up 1%. The local unit, in the meantime, is trading stronger. It's in a tight range, but stronger, benefiting from a weaker dollar. It's sitting at 17.63 against the greenback.
The money lady, Ndawuleng Lechele. I'm no Donald Trump, but listen, the money lady, that's it. I'm not doing a Trumpian nicknaming thing here, but the money lady. We'll talk to Ndawuleng a bit later on, just before the JSE opens, and that will be coming up at about just after 8:30 here on the Morning Brief.
From 1936 to the future, from Ekaya, Ekasi, to Jozi and Urkan to the world, from dance and poetry to stages filled with our hopes and dreams, from SABC radio stations to cross-border triumphs, from drama, comedy and heart-pounding sport to raise our flag, from culture and spirit to the streets where talent is grown, from generation to generations and the shows that kept us entertained. So, what are you waiting for? Kumbule Kaya. SABC has always been home to our joy, stories, and Msanti's magic. Come home to SABC Plus, still home to the best of who we are.
Kickstart your journey to success in 2025 with the Durban University of Technology. DUT offers programs in the faculties of Accounting and Informatics, Applied Sciences, Arts and Design, Engineering and the Built Environment, Health Sciences and Management Sciences, open for applications for 2025. Applications close on 30th September 2024, but dates may vary. Visit dut.ac.za for a full list of available programs and entry requirements. Apply now through the Central Applications Office by visiting cao.ac.za.
Catch
Watch The Tastemaster Junior this Tuesday evening at 7 on SABC2. It's another elimination week, and the bottom 6 are taken on a culinary trip back to school. For this challenge, they must create their dream lunchbox filled with nutritious yet delicious treats. And their creations are impressive. That's the Tastemaster Junior this Tuesday evening at 7. Repeat Wednesdays at 1 and Sundays at 4 p.m. Only on SABC2.
This Heritage Month, SAFM invites you to celebrate the rich tapestry of our nation's diverse cultures. From the vibrant beats of our traditional music to the flavors of our unique cuisines, every culture tells a story of strength, unity, and identity. We honor the heroes and heroines who laid down their lives for our freedom, reminding us that our shared heritage is what makes us strong. Together as one, we celebrate who we are because our culture is our identity. This Heritage Month, let's celebrate every culture, every story, and every voice. Africa Update on SAFM.
Advocate Sipho Mantula joins us at this time every day with that Africa news update. And Sipho, this morning you're looking at the WTO Director General, Ngozi Okonjo-Iweala. She says she's got some unfinished business that she needs to take care of.
That is quite true, Thulasizwe. Refreshing morning, Jumbo Africa. Remember, this is a former finance minister from Nigeria, age 70, that have said that issues of global agricultural engagement, issues of carbon, fisheries, those are the issues that since 2021 appointed as the first female African chief of the trade body, World Trade Organization. He's pushing for the second term now. And as I've said earlier, the issues that there are some issues that he has to deal with, which are around agriculture, around carbonization, and also the fisheries. And I think he has done a lot, to us looking at 2022, that he was able to come up with a global treaty on cutting what they call fishing subsidies in 2022.
Yeah. And to Niger now, I see that the U.S. military is withdrawing troops from that country. What's that about?
This is the last phase that they have done since beginning of July. They've done the first phase in July, second in August, and now this Monday, it was the final withdrawal of 1,000 military personnel. Remember, post the military coup in Niger, there have been some tensions between Washington and Niamey. Now, what has happened is that Niamey pushed the U.S. out, saying that we are fine, we'll deal with our own security, and that's where the U.S. opted to can withdraw. Hence, I was giving you those phases, that this was the last phase of the U.S. moving out of Niger. Others are saying it's the move of the U.S. from the Sahel, and that brings Simelane or Russia closer to Burkina Faso, Niger, and Mali.
And in South Sudan, some concerning developments, I should say. The postponement of elections and extension of the transitional period. Is it needed, that extension?
Thulas, I can say it is so, but the issue is that we have a country that went on a separation with the North in 2011. 2013, there was this crisis of a war between Riek Machar and Salva Kiir, and there was a peace agreement between 2013 and 2018. Now, from 2024 to 2026, why the delay? They are raising the issues of security. Secondly, integration of the military forces and the electoral calendar, the electoral resources. We know that normally the UN will have supported them in terms of capacitating them, whether it's technical, legal, or operational, for these elections to be held. Because indeed, some of us were there to us in 2011, but we have never seen any change from the South Sudan as they are delaying their elections. So in short, I'll say to you, this is not positive for the electorate and for the opposition.
And news just in our own neighborhood in Eswatini. My goodness, Sipho, I saw that video of that senior journalist confronting the Prime Minister. He was taking no prisoners whatsoever, but it seems the government there is not impressed with that.
Remember, Becky, 2014, with the late Thulani Maseko, they were jailed on the same issues that they were challenging the then Chief Justice. Now they are questioning the King, They're questioning the Prime Minister, Russell Dlamini. That was 10 years ago. Makubo Begi, the same guy who you saw in the video, spent almost 447 days in jail to last. Now he went on to lambast the Prime Minister, said, but you can't give us a script and tell us that we must give a good narrative about the kingdom when we know very well that the media has independence, has got their own way of reporting. But it appears the government wants to redesign how the media should report to the public. So it is tension in our neighbors in the kingdom of Eswatini.
And lastly, in your historical archives, you're taking us back to 17 September 1998. What happened on that day?
That is 26 years ago. Just also in our neighbor from Eswatini to Lesotho Kingdom. You'll remember the name Betwell Pakaliti Musisili. They won election. So what happened on this day is that there were demonstrations that were people were saying there were electoral irregularities, that people did not agree that Lesotho Congress for Democrats has won election. So you can say it was a post-election protest that happened on this. Then you know too that it led to many things that led to the Operation Boalesa, when Nelson Mandela gave the then Mangosuthu Buthelezi to send the defense into Lesotho at some point. So it's a quite interesting story when we have to know. No, but remember that story. When
Acting president, and we woke up and we had troops on the ground.
We have troops, Operation Boalesa, and he was the Minister of Home Affairs. And in law we say, but did the acting president have delegated powers to send their troops? This is an assignment for our listeners. Those who are listening to in law, they will have to study it very well to us on administrative law, this issue of the subdelegation of powers by the president and the acting president. Thank you, Thulas.
All right, you too. Have a fantastic day there. Sipho Mantula, ending on a rather interesting historical note there, the deployment of South African National Defence troops on the ground in Lesotho following the events that he was talking about of 17 September 1998. You're listening to The Morning Brief here on SAFM.
SAFM, guiding you through the rush hour traffic.
It stays extremely heavily backed up on the N1 corridor between Pretoria and Joburg this morning. Not only the highway, but the alternative and side roads as well. So it's a crash on the side of the N1 before you get to Allendale. It's pretty much halfway between New Road and Allendale. That's where the activity is. The backlog of traffic all the way back through Brockfontein back to John Foster. Alternative routes like the R101 coming off the N1 in Centurion, jammed solidly into Midrand. Real struggle to get into the highway off Samran, off Olifantsfontein, off New Road as well. All those approaches are heavy, and then the sort of backlog behind them back into the suburbs. So Midrand will take a lot of extra time to get out. Even routes like the R55 noticeably busier this morning. Thatchfield, Blue Hills, Kyalami, Crowthorne, with motorists heading that way as the alternative. And if you do find yourself alternative routing that way, just keep in mind there's no lights on Main and Lachlan between Kyalami and Lone Hill, which are causing some additional problems this morning with that extra volume arriving there. Also going north, a big broken down vehicle before New Road has been there since about 5 o'clock this morning. Traffic on the way through Midrand to Pretoria, sitting in heavy queue back as far as Allendale. N3 remains heavy from Germiston up to Marlborough Drive due to an earlier crash and breakdown around the London Road exit. And behind that, the N12 and R24 routes are very heavily backed coming in from Ekurhuleni, trying to get through Galilees into that N3 North. Now, Durban, some real problems as well up the N2. You've got some heavy traffic between the M7 and Westwood Mall. That's primarily into the roadworks, plus an earlier breakdown. And then shortly thereafter, you're back in the real thick of it between Umgeni Road and a crash up at the Kumashu Highway. All lanes are currently blocked there. So if you're coming from the south coast on your way for flight connections, importantly at King Shaka International, you might want to give yourself a lot of extra time, or B, look at some alternative routes. The M4, the Ruthfirst Highway up to Umhlanga, looking fairly slow. Cape Town, bit of sand on Baden-Powell Drive, combo of high tides, full moon, and some strong southeasterly winds just blowing that sand up onto Baden-Powell, so go carefully there. And the N1 into Cape Town, standing currently from Plattekloof all the way through, no gaps, right through to the city centre. Rob Byrne, SAFM Traffic.
The cost of living crisis is real. Here's what one OUTsurance client did about it.
I'm Amy. I'm 26 from Kenilworth. When I got my 2022 Ford EcoSport, the immediate thought was to phone OUTsurance, and I pay only 819 Rand per month. No insurers were able to beat or match the premium that I'm currently paying.
Want a car insurance premium that'll blow your mind? SMS out to 30754 now for a quote, and to find out about included benefits like panic assistance that sends the nearest medical or armed response unit to you wherever you may be 24/7. Here's Yusuf.
45 years old from Tygerberg, Western Cape. I pay 700 Rand for my Polo 1.6 2021 model. If you haven't called Outsurance yet, definitely get in touch.
Give it a go. SMS out to 30754 now. That's out to 30754. Outsurance is a licensed insurer and FSP. T's, C's, and limits apply. Premiums are risk profile dependent and reviewed annually. Client comments do not constitute financial advice.
Devastated by the brutal murder of his wife, John Luther returns in the second season of Luther to policing in a different world. With his old unit gone, Luther finds himself working in the newly created Serious and Serial unit, headed by former police complaints officer Martin Schenk. And now, a strange and mysterious masked man wanders the streets of London, carrying out ritualistic murders in historic locations, working his way up to one final masterpiece. Immerse yourself in a world-class drama with Luther Season 2, Mondays to Wednesdays at 9 p.m. Starts Tuesday the 10th of September on S3. Channel your inner drama with BBC Primetime, only on S3. Open up. S3.
This Heritage Month, SAFM invites you to celebrate the rich tapestry of our nation's diverse cultures. From the vibrant beats of our traditional music to the flavors of our unique cuisines, every culture tells a story of strength, unity, and identity. We honor the heroes and heroines who laid down their lives for our freedom, reminding us that our shared heritage is what makes us strong. Together as one, we celebrate who we are because our culture is our identity. This Heritage Month, let's celebrate every culture, every story, and every voice. This is Thulasizwe Simelane on the Morning Brief.
At 6 minutes to 8, let's go to this story now. Despite increased security and patrolling in the Table Mountain National Park, businesses operating in the area say more needs to be done to curb crime. During 2023 and 2024, several incidents, including muggings on popular hiking trails, break-ins and thefts from vehicles in parking areas were reported. The RMB Ultra Trail Cape Town brings an estimated 50 million rand, we are told, to the local economy, and it will take place from November the 22nd to November 24th. And as it draws near, its organizers say crime on Table Mountain affects their business. The event is attended by at least 2,800 runners who explore the mountain's trails. For more on this, I'm joined now by Stuart McConaughey, the RMB Ultra Trail Race Director. Good morning to you, Stuart. So how bad is the impact of crime on this sought-after Ultra Trail race?
Morning, Thulasizwe, and thanks for having me. Look, I think it's definitely affected us, but I think it's more, we're looking at Table Mountain as a whole. It's not just a natural wonder, it's a lifeblood of our tourism industry, and we just can't afford to let crime tarnish its reputation. So we're just looking for action from our authorities to ensure that there's safety for everyone and every visitor.
And is it your sense from experience as well as the statistics around muggings and the likes that action you are asking for is being implemented by the authorities?
There certainly has been some action. While we've seen increased patrols and installation of security cameras in certain areas, there is a pressing need for more to be done, we feel. These efforts need to be visible and sustained. And we're also kind of calling on the city and sandparks to better communicate the existing safety plans and the future initiatives so that we can reassure not only our runners, but the public and the general, tourist.
So as you go into this year's edition of the Ultra, how concerned are you about the possibility of incidents happening, and also, by extension, what is the reputational damage this is doing to the brand of what I understand to be, an internationally acclaimed and sought after event?
Yeah, I think that's the biggest thing for us really is that brand damage. I just spent a couple of weeks over in Europe at some of the biggest trail races, marketing Cape Town and the event, and unfortunately 80% of the questions kind of went back to that question of are we safe and is what is being done about crime on the mountain. So, that as much as I try and we try put out the positives of being in Cape Town and we know that these are really isolated incidents, they do a massive amount of damage to not only our event but to the reputation of Cape Town.
What is it about Table Mountain National Park that heightens the sense of vulnerability? I mean, we live in a crime-riddled country, but I'm just trying to understand what it is about that particular space that sort of makes you even more vulnerable. I saw one number citing up to 80 incidents of muggings that are said to have taken place recently.
Yeah, I think that's over the last few years. They've been around that number. I think what tends to happen, Thulasizwe, is that people go to the mountain and as a refuge, a safe space where they can escape, the city and the work and the life. Often we like to go to these areas alone because of that integration with nature. So when those areas are threatened or taken away from us, I think we feel them much more. It's one thing living your day-to-day in a city where we're all aware of things, don't leave your valuables in the car and, those things that South Africans are aware of. But I think it's in those safe spaces or the areas where we go to that is really affecting a lot of us. And I think, from an event perspective, people come to the mountain or come to the race because they've seen Table Mountain, they've heard about this magnificent trails where the mountain almost falls off into the ocean, and they want to experience that, but at the same time they are obviously confronted with this fear, and if you don't want that ultimately.
Yeah, absolutely. I've got to thank you for your time, Stuart McConaughey, the RMB Ultra Trail Race Director. Something has got to give. There's a distinct sense of almost being under siege in as far as the crime situation is concerned. You can't even go to a refuge, like just taking a walk on Table Mountain without worrying about getting mugged. Anyway, it's 8 a.m. And it's time for us to get a news update from Ann Musa. Essential cover from Outsurance pays out claims in cash, allowing you to choose your own panel beater. SMS CAR to 43187 now.
In our top stories, water supply challenges affecting Charlotte Maxeke Hospital, and Thabo Bester approaches High Court seeking access to a laptop. Good morning. The Charlotte Maxeke Hospital in Johannesburg will be prioritizing emergency cases and divert all elective surgeries to nearby facilities due to water supply challenges. Joburg Waters says one of its water reservoirs in Parktown, Johannesburg, is critically low to empty due to poor supply and high demand. Gauteng Health Department spokesperson Kutso Rabutata says the safety and well-being of patients remains top priority.
To support patient care, we have secured 4 tankers of water from Johannesburg Water and also water bottles so that patients can be able to take their medication. And in the meantime, we are working closely with Johannesburg Water to resolve the issue quickly. We apologize for the inconvenience and assure that we are doing everything possible to minimize disruptions.
Convicted murderer and rapist Thabo Bestas today approaching the High Court in Pretoria, requesting access to a laptop in order to prepare for his upcoming deportation case. Bestas is currently facing charges of escaping from the Mangaung Correctional Centre in Bloemfontein in May 2022, fled to Tanzania with his girlfriend Nandipha Magudumana. They were arrested and deported to South Africa. The trial of Bestas, Magudumana and several prison officers accused of helping him escape has been set for the 10th of February next year. The Democratic Alliance in the Western Cape has warned extortionists are now demanding protection fees from social workers. The party says it's also concerned about the increased attacks on social workers. The Western Cape Social Development Department is reportedly spending 20 million rand on overtime to double up social workers operating in high-risk areas. Wendy Kaiser-Philander is the DH chairperson for the Standing Committee on Social Development in the Western Cape Provincial Legislature.
One can't even begin to comprehend as to why something like this would even happen. The attacks on social workers, whether it's physical, hijackings, were on the increase, assaults as well. We heard now that also extortion of social workers is also now something that we need to be concerned about. From what we've gathered is that whilst social workers are in the vulnerable communities doing their very crucial and important job, they are now threatened and asked they should give money or they will be hurt.
The National Student Financial Aid Scheme says applications for the 2025 academic year will open on Friday. Applications were supposed to open today but had to be postponed due to concerns raised by student organizations at universities, TVET colleges and institutional governance structures. Higher Education Minister Dr. Nobuhle Nkabane briefed the media in Pretoria yesterday on the developments.
Another reason for postponing the launch of the 2025 NSFAS online application process was to allow NSFAS to do a dry run on the online application system to stakeholders. The feedback received has already informed some of the critical systems changes to simplify the online application process and also making it accessible to all.
Further afield, and finally, the mayor of a Polish town, Nysa, has asked all 44,000 residents to evacuate as widespread flooding continues to batter Central Europe. Due to heavy rain, soldiers and volunteers in the Polish town are now racing to build sandbank defences to prevent a river from bursting its banks. The BBC's Sarah Rainsford has more.
The mayor has warned local residents to evacuate to higher ground because if the river bursts its banks, the whole town could flood. Not far from here, a dam has already failed, increasing the pressure. Many homes have no running water and no power, and in towns where the floods have already receded, they've left filth and destruction behind them. Homes filled with mud, roads washed away, cars upturned and trees uprooted. The government has now declared a state of natural disaster in this area, which should mean more resources.
Recapping the top story, the Charlotte Maxeke Hospital in Johannesburg will be prioritising emergency cases and divert all elective surgeries to nearby facilities due to water supply challenges. For SAFM News, I am Anne Musa.
And that's the news for this hour. Theft, accident and 1 million rand liability cover, all covered by Outsurance Essential. Get a quote today, SMS CAR to 43187. Need low-cost insurance for your older car? With Outsurance Essential, a 44-year-old woman pays only 465 rand a month for her 2011 silver VW Polo 1.4 Comfort Line and gets up to 1 million rand liability cover. That means if you cause an accident, the other car will be covered up to 1 million rand. Get Outsurance Essential for unfinanced cars older than 5 years and valued at less than 125,000 rand. It's time to switch and save. SMS CAR to 43187. That's CAR to 43187 today. Licensed insurer and FSP. T's, C's and information online.
SAFM, guiding you through the rush hour traffic.
Well, some good news now. The crash after New Road on the N1 South, which caused major backlogs through the Midrand region this morning, has finally been cleared. All lanes open there. Big backlogs to clear not only on the N1 from Brockfontein all the way down to New Road, but all the sort of approaches and alternatives routes like the old Joburg Road, Samrand, New Road, Olifantsfontein. They're all pretty heavily backed up, particularly the section between Samrand and Olifantsfontein, if you like. There's a lot of congested routes in that area, but the root cause of all of that has been cleared. Also, the breakdown on the N1 going north at New Road, that's also finally being cleared away as well. Crash still with us on the N3 after Modderfontein Road. The traffic remains heavy from Germiston up through to Alex. The N12 and R24 routes pretty heavily backlogged coming in towards Galuli to get into that N3 as well. Plenty of traffic on Durban's N2, currently sitting between the M7 and the M41 Gateway. That's quite an extensive backlog due to some earlier crashes and breakdowns and, of course, the roadworks. Crash now on the M4 South near Broadway, near the Durban North exit. If you're in from Umhlanga, that's still quite slow. The Long Tom Pass out in Mpumalanga that links Leidenburg to Sabi, currently closed. That's the R37, a massive truck crash, truck overturning and losing a whole pile of wooden logs or wooden pieces onto the roadway there. I believe it is fatal. The Long Tom Pass may be closed for some time this morning. And driving into Cape Town, the N1 still heavy from Durban Road at Belleville all the way through to city centre, and a crash on Jakes Curvell Drive north around the N1 highway, causing delays from Goodwood. Rob Byrne, SAFM Traffic.
SFM Sports Headlines. There's plenty of action to look forward to. The Proteas will be facing Afghanistan in the ODI series, and that's starting tomorrow. But tonight, Arne Slot delivers a ruthless assessment of Liverpool players ahead of the AC Milan game. Details around 8:30.
The world's best cooking show is finally here. MasterChef South Africa Season 5. You'll meet 20 talented home cooks from around Mzansi, noma uphumapi, and no matter your favorite dish. See if the chefs can handle the heat in the kitchen in a race to be crowned MasterChef South Africa. Every Saturday, 7:30 p.m. only on S3, Channel 193. MasterChef South Africa, the world's best cooking show, proudly sponsored by Pick n Pay.
This Heritage Month, SAFM invites you to celebrate the rich tapestry of our nation's diverse cultures. From the vibrant beats of our traditional music to the flavors of our unique cuisines, every culture tells a story of strength, unity, and identity. We honor the heroes and heroines who laid down their lives for our freedom, reminding us that our shared heritage is what makes us strong. Together as one, we celebrate who we are because our culture is our identity. This Heritage Month, let's celebrate every culture, every story, and every voice.
26-year-old Anneke got tired of high insurance premiums giving her the runaround, she gave Outsurance a call. She now pays an unbelievable 827 Rand per month to insure her silver 2022 VW Polo Vivo Trendline. SMS out to 30754 for an Outsurance quote to see how much you could save. That's out to 30754 today. Licensed insurer and FSP. T's and C's online.
The Morning Brief with Thulasizwe Simelane. Weekdays, Monday to Friday, 6 to 9 a.m. The Morning Brief with Thulasizwe Simelane. Weekdays, Monday to Friday, 6 to 9 a.m.
Yeah, they went to the third hour of the morning brief here on SAFM. Quite a number of conversations that have already taken place in the last 2 hours. Among them, the state of readiness of Gauteng hospitals around being ready for the NHI. We had the conversation around safety up on Table Mountain. That was one of the issues that was raised in the last hour, as well as the issues around the energy mix and the role of nuclear energy within our energy mix. But one thing we haven't done enough of today has been to take your calls. So let's do exactly that. Let's start with Yonela, who is out in Limpopo. And Yonela, good morning to you. You want to talk to me about the healthcare conditions. What do you want to say about that?
Morning to us and morning to the listeners. To us, I think I heard about the Helen Joseph issue, and it seems like we focus just on public hospitals. And you'd find that most of the time it's not the hospital per se, the institution, but rather the people, certain people and certain doctors in the hospital. I mean, for instance, my mother-in-law was admitted into, Equity Hospital on Queen Nandi Drive in Durban. We drove down to see her. She was admitted on the 1st. We drove down to see her on the 5th, which was the weekend. The specialist told us he doesn't come in on weekends. But then he told us that he was going to do a procedure on her, which was the Monday the 9th. The procedure was done on Monday the 9th. The vesting specialist never saw my mother-in-law until Friday the 13th, when he discharged her. She came back to complications on Sunday, which is the 15th, right? The brochure that the vesting specialist gave us said that if you notice any complications, call immediately, because it's a vascular thing. You could get clots, your veins block, the stents that in the veins could collapse. We went straight to the hospital, where my mother was taken straight to the hospital because we had driven back. My sister-in-law was there. She waited the whole Sunday to see the doctor. They just took pictures for the doctor. The doctor doesn't come on weekends.
Wow.
Today, the doctor didn't come. My sister-in-law was in the hospital the whole day in the doctor's room, right?
Yeah.
And she came with a friend and they staged a scene, threatening, go to hospital management.
So the point you're making, Yonela, is it's all fair and fine to fix the infrastructure, but the software as well, the people skills need to be upped as well.
The people to that, and I think one of the biggest problems that we have with our healthcare in South Africa is not really the facilities or the tools, but the people.
All right, let's leave it there. That is Yonela there out in Limpopo talking to me about the conditions in hospitals and saying that the balance needs to be struck between improving the infrastructure and making sure that the people that actually do the work actually do what they are supposed to do. All right, let's move on to this story now, and we will take, of course, more of your calls a bit later on here on the show. But the law firm Weber Wenzel says it is likely that changes to South Africa's import duties implemented by the South African Revenue Service will make importing low-value items from international platforms like Shein and Temu less appealing for consumers. On the 1st of September 2024, SARS added value-added tax to the 20% import duty already in place, raising costs for consumers who frequently shop online internationally. Let's bring into the conversation then Emily Gammon, an associate at Weber Wenzel. Good morning to you, Emily. I've got to thank you for your time. So Temu and Shein are known to be more affordable than a lot of clothing stores operating in the country. How much will the added VAT increase the cost of clothes from some of these outlets?
Good morning, Thulasizwe, and thank you for having me on the show today. So first of all, the amendments which are being implemented, it's just important to note that there's been the initial change on 1st of September, adding the 15% VAT, as you said. And there will be reconfigurations of this going forward, expected from the 1st of November, but we're not entirely sure what this will look like. So to say what the change will be for consumers at this point is a little difficult, but obviously you will anticipate adding that 15% VAT at this stage, which will push your prices up a little bit. And then going forward, the 20% flat rate may be increased. Looking at other tariff categories that can go as high as 45%. Depending on the tariff category and on the goods in question. So it's a sliding scale and one which we can't actually comment on for sure, but yes, consumers can expect to see an increase of at least 15% at the moment.
What do we understand, Emily, about the rationale and the reason for this policy, this addition of VAT to imports that already were subject to 20% import duty?
So SARS has explicitly cited unfair competition with other industry players as a reason for the move, as well as protecting the local clothing and textile industry. And some people may not be aware that South Africa does actually have a relatively thriving clothing and textile industry, although it is small. We have a lot of people employed in this industry, particularly in the Western Cape and in KwaZulu-Natal. So it is, in my view, a strong move to protect the local industry, and it shows consumers that we should be considering buying local where we can.
And in terms of the dominance of some of these outlets, like your, I don't know whether it's Shein or Shein, let me go with Shein, and Temu or Temu, let's say Temu for now. In terms of their dominance on the online retail space, what will this import duty do in your expectation as Weber Wenzel?
So perhaps the first interesting point to note is that this is not only happening in South Africa. This is, in fact, an international trend of clampdowns against these companies. The US announced their amendments just last week, and they pretty much mirrored what South Africa has done. So they've again protected against that de minimis exception. So yeah, I think that it's likely to. It's likely to be a move that we'll see all over the world, and then in that you may anticipate that this will cause some kind of headaches for these international companies, particularly from China. But that said, the hope also is that when we start to see this kind of trade protectionism, it encourages these companies to reconsider their practices. So one of my particular areas of interest at Weber Wenzel and in this clothing and textile industry specifically is a focus on environmental and social issues in the value chains. And we know from allegations that have been released about companies like Shein and Temu, obviously some of these are unfounded, but we do know that there have been allegations around poor environmental practices, around forced labor, around even things like child labor across some different companies. So we would hope that these are the kinds of trade protections that would force companies to look closer at their value chains and assess whether they can remain competitive while fixing up these kinds of issues across the value chain.
So do you see it as a stick that would encourage, best practice and ethical practice in terms of the production value chain? Because I imagine that many people who make orders online don't really have the background of how was this item of clothing produced wherever it was produced before I bought it online.
Yes, that's exactly it. And of course, consumers prefer lower prices, and we all understand that. But we need to start considering as consumers the importance of understanding the value chain better. These clothing and textile value chains are extremely long. They often go across multiple different countries through many different factories, and it is very difficult to trace across all of these different locations what is actually happening in the value chain. One of the things that we can do and which we as lawyers do in assessing these is human rights due diligences or supply chain due diligences, where we assess the entire value chain. Right. But obviously, if we look at local and regional value chains, if we situate clothing and textile industry in South Africa and sub-Saharan Africa, we have a lot more potential for traceability and accountability. We're closer to the issues, and our government and our regulators can be more proactive in ensuring that our consumers are protected from these types of value chains. So I think that's a huge advantage that is potentially going to happen in South Africa.
All right, I've got to thank you for your time and your insights this morning on the Morning Brief. That's Emily Gammon, who is an associate at Weber Wenzel, weighing in around the the addition of value-added tax to the already existing 20% import duty on some of these imported items from outlets such as Temu and Shein.
Dawn breaks across the lush Serengeti plain, but paradise is fleeting as the animals face fresh challenges. Kali the lioness and Bakari the baboon may seem safe in their rock fortresses, but with rivals encroaching on all sides, their future hangs in the balance. Out on the plains, Duma the cheetah faces his destiny, and down by the river, baby hippo Mafuta strikes up an unlikely friendship with the crocodile Magamba. Channel your inner explorer with Serengeti, Season 3, Sundays at 6 p.m. only on S3. Open up. S3.
ask me how I know that 50% of car claims are pre-approved instantly. That's because I was one of them.
Yeah, they got my car back on the road with the first repair.
I submitted my claim on the ANG app. I didn't even have to call.
Auto & General is proud to be recognised as South Africa's best car insurer by Forbes and The Star for short-term insurance. Isn't it time you switch to award-winning cover? Visit autogen.co.za. Auto & General. Never not there. ANG is a licensed non-life insurer and FSP. T's and C's online.
Devastated by the brutal murder of his wife, John Luther returns in the second season of Luther to policing in a different world. With his old unit gone, Luther finds himself working in the newly created Serious and Serial unit, headed by former police complaints officer Martin Schenk. And now, a strange and mysterious masked man wanders the streets of London, carrying out ritualistic murders in historic locations, working his way up to one final masterpiece. Immerse yourself in a world-class drama with Luther Season 2, Mondays to Wednesdays at 9 p.m. Starts Tuesday the 10th of September on S3. Channel your inner drama with BBC Primetime, only on S3. Open up.
S3.
The only talk radio morning breakfast show that makes sense. The Morning Brief with Thulasizwe Simelane.
So credit then to the reporting of the journalists Sikonati Manjanja and News 24 on this particular story. The Department of Water and Sanitation has paid the Mogale City municipality more than 35 million rand to fund repairs for its damaged sewage equipment. This is to address the issue of sewage in the municipality. As it stands, the Mogale City municipality is releasing thousands of liters of raw sewage into rivers and residential areas. And Sikonati Manjanja joins me now to take that conversation forward. And Sikonati, we can get to the causes and the path that led us to this point in terms of the sewage treatment in and around Mogale City. But let's start with the look and feel of it all. What does it look like? What does it sound like? What does it smell like? The manifestations of this crisis in the area.
It stinks like hell. If you go around Manseville, Extension 4 in particular, that's to the west of the township, near the river. If you go to Brickville, which is further away, about 5 kilometers from that particular township, it's another informal settlement of RDP houses and shacks. There, it stinks like hell too, because there is absolutely no sanitation evacuation taking place. All the infrastructure, sewage infrastructure, has broken down and totally collapsed at Mogale. And you can see all of this flowing in the streets. Residents have to make a plan to try, many of them unsuccessfully, to prevent the wastewater, the sewage, flowing into their yards.
So what led us to this point? How did we get to this point of crisis?
At this point, we do not know how we got here. What we do know is that the infrastructure has collapsed. The reason we don't know a thing is because the municipality has refused to talk to us, has refused to answer any of our questions. What we do know is the department has been trying to help them, but they are just not buying spares to repair and service the pump stations, the water treatment works, which was called a sewage farm back in the day. These have not been functioning for at least 2 years, and that is why it has led the municipality to release the sewage into the river system.
So the smell is one thing, and it is, not to downplay how inconvenient and unpleasant it can be, and unbearable like it can be. But you then have added onto that the manifestations of health problems for some of the residents.
So that is absolutely that constant smell has got respiratory health risks for people. People with asthma, for example, they suffer a lot in that environment. It actually aggravates their situation. And then you have the real problem of sewage flowing into the river system, one where animals, domestic animals, where the farms downstream, the fish farms and cattle farms previously relied on this water. But a very important problem that not many people realize, The irrigation farms, when you go to your favorite retailer to buy your groceries, the vegetable comes from those farms, which now can no longer rely on that polluted water.
So the Department of Water and Sanitation talking about paying more than 35 million rand to fund repairs. But how long before we get to a point where that 35 million rand manifests in less sewage, untreated sewage running on the streets of Mogale City and flowing into these rivers with the consequences you just described?
This has happened, the payments have happened over the past 2 to 3 years. The problem has only gotten worse. The Department of Water and Sanitation is at its wit's end. It doesn't know what happened to the money. It just never gets into buying the spares. It disappears into the municipal coffers or the pockets of the officials. The outcome, after they have tried to help the municipality with assisting with this funding, remember also residents pay for this because you get charged a water and utility bill. That is the money that should be funding the maintenance of sewage infrastructure. The municipality never uses that money for that purpose. If you look on what's happening on the ground, you look what's happening on the rivers, 10 kilometers away from the plant, the water is totally unusable.
What is your sense then, Sikonati, as a parting shot of what needs to happen with this situation, the consequence management of it all, and the so what of it all? Why is this story important in the scheme of Mogale City, but broadly in Gauteng and beyond, and how do we fix it?
Here's why the story is important. The water that we drink must be treated and returned to the river system so it can be again reticulated towards households for usage. As I said again, Thulasizwe, the farms, the vegetables that we buy on the shops rely on that water. They have to be irrigated with clean water. Now the people who work on the farms, businesses downstream have closed because they can no longer use the water, and there are tourism businesses that have been closed down, fish farms that have been closed down as a result of the water stinking. What needs to be done is the municipality to be taken over for someone who can actually, one, buy the spares and run the water treatment plants as really it should. Then you can save the environment. But more importantly, you can save the jobs of the people who work on these farms, who work on these tourism businesses. Let's take one example. There's a sculpture park called Nirox, which is on the brink of really closing down. Farms have closed down downstream there because the water stinks and the animals cannot use it. I'm talking about sheep, goats, and cattle on farms. And there are other domestic uses of the water. Then you have the problem of sewage running down every street, right, where people have to live, children have to play, and there is one yard right next to the pump station, Thulasizwe, where someone has had to demolish and remove their shack from that particular spot and that yard because they cannot live. The sewage is flowing through the shack itself. And the people are not able to rely on the rentals they used to get from those shacks in the yard. So it's a crisis that has been long in the making. This the people that I talk to tell me has been going on at Mansfield for at least 2 years. But the water treatment works has not been working as it should for 5 years now. And you can smell this in the air, the whole area around Mansfield and around Krugersdorp. All
right, I've got to thank you for your time. Top shelf journalism by Sikonati Manjanja, right on brand for Sikonati, of course. The stories that matter and the stories that are of consequence. I cannot put anything to the descriptions and the outrageous situation that he has just described for you in the last few minutes. Let's go to N. Musa now for an update of the news headlines.
Good morning. Thanks to us. In the headlines, Executive Mayor of the Nelson Mandela Bay Metro, Gary van Niekerk, says they've held meetings with the ANC about the possible reshuffle in the Metro. This comes after the ANC announced plans to establish an ANC-led governance. The Charlotte Maxeke Hospital in Johannesburg will be prioritizing emergency cases and divert all elective surgeries to nearby facilities due to water supply challenges. And the National Student Financial Aid Scheme says applications for the 2025 academic year will open on Friday. I'll have details on these and other stories at 9.
SAFM, guiding you through the rush hour traffic.
Still queuing heavily on Joburg's N3. This is from Germiston now, from the Hilton interchange all the way through to a crash opposite Alex. The collision scene around the London Road exit. The N3 very heavy. Behind that, the N12 and R24 has remained static coming in from Ekurhuleni. The R24 from Edenvale. The N12 from Craft Road. Some real problems getting off those highways into Galilees and trying to merge into that solid backlog of the N3. The crash scene on the M1 South that did all the damage through Midrand just after New Road's being cleared, but the traffic stays heavy from Bruckfontein. All those sort of side roads and approach is still very bad as well. R101 Old Joburg Road down through sort of towards the old Teasers is heavy. Samrand Road, Olifantsfontein, Lever Road, that side of Midrand very heavy trying to get out and get into the highway. So a lot of traffic finding itself diverting down the R55, Blue Hills, Crowthorne, Kyalami. So that's a busy run through as well today. It's just been a crash going down Fields Hill. It's incredible how often you get rain and crashes at Fields Hill. They happen pretty much together. So slippery conditions there. Another vehicle on its roof or on its side, just down the bottom of the hill. So coming from Kloof into Pinetown, that's going to be heavy for a while. Also a crash on the M4, the Ruth First Highway near Durban North, causing a delay from the Mshlanga side. Cape Town, a collision on the M5, Prince George Drive at Hyde Road, Southfield, Grassy Park area, so that's slow both ways. Bosmansdam Road out of Edgemead and Bordersack still very heavy on towards the Montague Drive after an earlier crash. And we're still queuing on Marine Drive, about a 10-minute delay to get through Milnerton down towards the Woodbridge Island. That queue will probably be pretty solid like that if we follow yesterday and we follow Friday until about sort of middle of the afternoon. Rob Byrne, SAFM Traffic.
This is SAFM Sport with Zai Khan.
So, Zai, we're on the cusp of an ODI series in cricket, and I see that warnings are being sounded about being complacent if Protea Fire is to keep burning.
Absolutely. Warning words there from Lungi Ngidi. And he knows Afghanistan have got those fiery bowlers and a batting lineup that's even hotter than what the weather's going to be like there. But nevertheless, it is our team, the Proteas, in action against a very strong Afghan side in the first ODI of 3 series. Lungi Ngidi, who's back from injury, warning his teammates not to underestimate Afghanistan, calling them a team with world-class players. Let's listen to Lungi Ngidi.
Anyone's opinion on what they think Afghanistan might play like, I don't think that affects us because we've seen what they can do against other international teams. So I don't think anyone is taking this series lightly. They've got world-class cricketers and match winners, and on their day, they can beat the best in the world. We've seen it happen, so I don't think anyone should be looking at them as minnows. But yeah, we definitely know what we're in for. And the conditions as well, we're going to have to assess and see what those give us, and play it from there.
Let's go to the women's the Springbok women's team. Their coach, Sveste de Bruin, making 2 changes to the starting team for the match against Spain. That will be at the Cape Town Stadium on Thursday. Libby Janssen van Rensburg, Aziza Mvika will start at fullback and tight head prop, having been promoted from the bench. Now, the Springbok women, they secured a comprehensive 59-17 victory, and that was over the Barbarians, with Sveste saying that the Spain test will provide a vital opportunity for the team to test their progress from last month.
Firstly, I need to see how good was that Barbarian side. Otherwise we might have a bit of wool over our eyes at this stage. But the fundamentals were good. There was a lot of defenders beaten in that game. Our support play lacked a bit at stages, but apart from that, I was very happy with the set play. We lost 1 or 2 skew lineouts with throw-ins, but apart from that, scrums and lineouts were very solid.
And now, SuperSport United, they are finally coming out of their 6-week hiatus as they open their Betway Premiership campaign against Shwane rivals and reigning champions Mamelodi Sundowns tonight. Masat Sansa were last in official action when they lost to Orlando Pirates in the quarterfinals of the MTN 8. The one plus for SuperSport is that goalkeeper Ricardo Goss now gets to play against his parent club.
Yeah, look, the previous 3 seasons haven't been playing against Sundowns. Yeah, I think it's going to be a very competitive game, and it's a game that the whole team is looking forward to. Obviously, the first game of the league, you always want to have a positive start, and hopefully we get to start with the clean sheet, and that's a moral booster for me.
And finally, Liverpool, they suffered a surprise defeat to Nottingham Forest over the weekend, their first under new manager Arne Slot. Now, he did slam his players, saying that too many weren't at their best. Slot says rotation wasn't the issue, but some players simply underperformed. Now, Liverpool have a chance to bounce back. They face AC Milan. That's in the Champions League tonight.
Last Saturday, we didn't do as many things good as we did against United, but there were still a few things that went quite well. But it was a total different game, and that's also for tomorrow. I expect a complete different game against Milan, with the type of players they have and the playing style that manager has compared to Nottingham Forest. But we should be disappointed if you lose a home game against Nottingham Forest and you play for and you work for Liverpool.
That's a wrap up for your sport on the morning brief for SAFM. I'm Zai Khan.
The Business Update on SAFM.
All right, let's turn to Ndauling Lechela then for that. And Ndauling, for those of us who are up very early, coffee is our staple. So what are you saying? Why are you telling us this news that we don't want to hear about coffee prices going up?
Thulas, I hate to be the bearer of bad news, but I have to let you know. So coffee prices are expected to increase because the Arabica coffee bean has hit record highs. It's hit levels last seen in 2011. Now, this comes as ongoing supply issues have driven up the cost of the high-quality Arabica bean. Coffee futures also jumped 2%, the highest since 2011. This year alone, coffee prices have soared 40%, due to shortages of Robusta beans, increasing demand for the Arabica beans. Now, Robusta beans are the more affordable beans used in instant coffee, and Arabica beans are pricier, used by specialty coffee chains. The supply dynamics have been hit by harsh weather conditions, particularly in Brazil, and this has been felt across the board. Earlier this year, coffee consumers started paying more at U.S. grocery stores after food and beverages manufacturer J.M. Smucker raised prices on its popular coffee brands. Starbucks also sounded the alarm on coffee bean prices, and the impact has also been felt here at home. Coffee fans in South Africa, among the continent's largest consumers of the product, are feeling the ripple effects of a shortage of Robusta beans. This has been seen in the latest inflation print. The price index for hot beverages increased by 17.6% in the 12 months to July, up from 16.5% recorded in June. Large annual price increases were recorded for instant coffee, which was up 21.8%. Ground coffee and coffee beans were also up 14.6%. So, hey, just expect to pay a little extra when you get your favorite cup of coffee.
Life's about to get tough for a coffee addict. It may be just time to kick the habit. What's the story with Elon Musk's Starlink and our government?
So what's happening is that President Cyril Ramaphosa and Elon Musk have confirmed that, they've been in conversation about introducing Starlink into South Africa. He's confirmed that, Ramaphosa rather has confirmed that Starlink is holding talks with local government to introduce the satellite service in South Africa. This comes after, those conversations hit a snag last year. Now, Starlink operates in 16 African countries, with Zimbabwe the latest country where it launched its services. Starlink is known for its low Earth orbiting satellites. These satellites have become more popular. Unlike the traditional satellites, LEO satellites are known to be faster and more efficient because they orbit closer to the Earth. In the meantime, experts in the industry are saying South Africa is being seen as being behind the curve in adopting the connectivity underpinned by the LEO satellites due to the delays with introducing Starlight into the country. While that plays out, local players are racing to strike deals that will give them an edge over rivals, especially in hard-to-reach areas where internet access remains a struggle. We've seen Seacom, Avanti, Liquid, and MTN partnering up with Eutelsat OneWeb, and MTN is also considering deals with AST Space Mobile, Link Global, and Starlink. Vodacom, in the meantime, is working with Amazon's Project Kuiper, and these deals are set to bring faster internet to remote areas. Meanwhile, the meeting between Ramaphosa and Musk has been seen as an indication that the government is working on a way to fast-track regulatory approval for the service locally.
Yeah, I wonder how that's going to go. Lastly, in Dowling, trading about to get underway at the JSE. What kind of a day are we looking at? But also wrapping up Asian markets and U.S. futures.
So trade remains quite choppy today as investors trade carefully when it comes to equities. And so we could be in for a mixed open on the JSE. Local traders will be waking up to numbers from property company Hyprop as well as Outsurance. On the currency front, the weaker dollar working in the rand's benefits this morning, with the local unit trading stronger at 1760 to the greenback from about 1763 an hour ago. In the US, futures pretty flat as we await the big monetary policy decisions from the Fed in particular, that meeting starting today. Over in Asia, markets on track to close in the red as traders eye moves from the Federal Reserve as well as the Bank of Japan.
All right, Ndawling, thank you for today. Ndawling Lechela has been watching all things business, the economy, as well as the markets for you throughout the day, throughout the morning here on the Morning Brief.
Unlock a world of benefits. Welcome to SABC's TV License Rewards program. Ready to make your viewing experience more rewarding? Say hello to perks that go beyond just watching TV. Join us today at sabctvlicenserewards.co.za and instantly receive your first reward. But wait, there's more. You can get up to 500 Rand back. Become part of something bigger, a movement where watching TV isn't just a hobby. It's a catalyst for positive change. Register now at sabctvlicenserewards.co.za and open the door to a world of benefits. Plus, every time you tune in, you're making a difference. T's and C's apply. Remember, TV license fees aren't just payments. They make a difference.
And we went on a water safari, and Mom spotted a hippo, and it said, "Grrr."
There is a place where you can see wonder and the wild, with breathtaking scenery and endless landscapes. Enjoy good food and embrace great taste.
And the next day we went to the Reed dance. I saw the maidens handing over reeds to the mighty Zulu king, and the Zulu warriors chanting, "Baye!"
Explore all this and more in the magical Zulu Kingdom.
This message is brought to you by KZN Tourism and Film Authority. For 18 years, Kumbulekaya has been fostering healing through forgiveness and reconciliation.
Are you asking me that?
Yes.
I grew up without a mom.
So what happened to your family?
What family? You are my family. What happened to you?
Witness as families forgive one another and reunite after a long time. Catch the new season of Kumbulekaya on SABC1 every Wednesday at 9 p.m.
Thulasizwe Simelane on the Morning Brief. Weekdays, Monday to Friday, 6 to 9 a.m.
So yesterday we spoke to Saki Mangole of PP Gemstones, and it had to do with that story that was about the taxman SARS seizing gemstones that are said to belong to a company linked to Patrice Motsipe's mining interests, African Rainbow Minerals. As we promised you yesterday, and that story had to do with some illicit, shipment of gemstones that we are told were stopped by the South African Revenue Services after receiving a tip-off from whistleblowers. So yesterday we promised that we would reach out to ARM, who were mentioned in that interview, and we have a response from them, from Asmang, that joint venture company. For now, as this matter is under investigation, they say that they will not be able to comment further on this matter while it's under investigation. Asmang going on to tell us that the policy has always been to fully comply with all laws in South Africa and to cooperate with the law authorities wherever there are allegations of improper or illegal activities. Asmang will also initiate its own internal investigations and will report in due course when the investigations have been concluded. That is the statement there coming from Asmang, this joint venture that involves African Rainbow Minerals, responding to the interview we had yesterday with Sake Mangole of PP Gemstones.
Weeknights on S3 are anything but ordinary. BBC Primetime brings you the best of British television from 9 p.m. till 11 p.m. You love drama? Then step into the world of Luther as he cracks down on criminals terrorizing the streets of London Monday to Wednesdays at 9 p.m. Top Gear will have you falling in love and rolling in laughter as Jeremy Clarkson and his team take you on an automotive journey like no other, Monday to Wednesdays at 10 p.m. Channel your best entertainment with BBC Primetime, only on S3. Open up.
S3. Ask me how I know that 50% of car claims are pre-approved instantly. That's because I was one of them.
Yeah, they got my car back on the road with the first repair.
I submitted my claim on the ANG app. I didn't even have to call.
Auto & General is proud to be recognised as South Africa's best car insurer by Forbes and The Star for short-term insurance. Isn't it time you switch to award-winning cover? Visit autogen.co.za. Auto & General, never not there. ANG is a licensed non-life insurer and FSP. T's and C's online.
Mzansi, what has become of our country? Gender-based violence is eating our moral fabric and we can no longer afford to turn a blind eye. This violence affects us all, occurring in various forms including femicide, which is the intentional killing of a woman because of her gender. It takes place anywhere, anytime, even in our own safe spaces at home. Working together with social partners through the National Strategic Plan on GBVF, the government aims to create a GBVF-free South Africa. As we acknowledge the gains from our 30 years of freedom and democracy, let us also work together to break the cycle of GBVF on our home ground. Call the 24-hour GBVF Command Center number on 0800 428 428 or text *120*7867#. A message from the GCIS.
SAFM, guiding you through the rush hour traffic.
Midrand staying busy this morning after an earlier crash, just after the new road exit on the M1 South. It's all being cleared up for a while, but the traffic stays heavy coming through from Old Joburg Road, Bruckfontein side on that run towards a new road. The Old Joburg Road off-ramping the N1 at Centurion, solid down towards sort of Olifantsfontein, and Olifantsfontein and Samrand still backing up in towards the N1 highway as well. Crash with us on the N3 North at London Road. That traffic is still busy, but really from sort of the Galulis N12 and R24 routes will still queue coming into Galulis, trying to get in to that N3 North. Over in Durban, a crash at the bottom of Fields Hill, the vehicle overturning, crashing into another one, so it's a two-vehicle collision. Always when it's wet, it just takes extra care and caution getting down Fields Hill. Pretty much guaranteed to see crashes there in the rain these days. From Kloof on your way to Pinetown, it is a big queue. There's also a breakdown on the N2 North going into Spaghetti Junction. The run-up from the M7 stays heavy, and a crash at Durban North near Broadway on the M4, the Ruth First Highway southbound, still slowing things up. Long Tom Pass, CR37 that links Leidenburg and Sabi out in Mpumalanga. Big truck crash that'll need to be recovered. I understand it may be fatal as well, so that 37 route likely to be restricted and closed for some time this morning. And Cape Town, there's still a lot of traffic heading into the city centre. Here we are 10 to 9. The N1 backed up from N1 City, sort of Paro area. N2 from Robert Sobukwe, that's just after the airport. Marine Drive has traffic at Sunset Beach. Again, a big queue into Loxton Road. That's about an 8 or 9 or 10 minute queue. That'll be with us most of the morning, that one. And then Marine Drive again through Pardon Island to get into that N1 inbound. Stay solid. The N1 inbound over the elevated freeway so bad there's even backing up Nelson Mandela Boulevard from sort of Searle Street to get into that elevated freeway, the foreshore area. Rob Byrne, SAFM Traffic.
You are listening to the Morning Brief with Thulasizwe Simelane.
So as you know, September is Heritage Month, and as South Africa marks 3 decades of democracy, heritage sites and museums play a critical role as custodians of our history. These spaces preserve the past and they are essential to understanding our national identity. Heritage sites such as sites and monuments like Freedom Park, the Voortrekker Monument and Robben Island, just to mention a few, play a significant role in reminding us of where we come from. Those who operate in this space, though, say these sites must continue to evolve and embrace new technology to tell stories of our heritage and engage wider audiences. For more on this, I'm joined now by the CEO of Freedom Park, Jane Mofamadi. Good morning, Ms. Mofamadi, and I've got to thank you for your time. So just how are heritage sites like yours being protected and improved in contemporary South Africa?
Heritage sites play a pivotal role, as you have indicated, because through them they are a mirror to our past, but they also reflect contemporary and current challenges. For example, it is through sites like ours where you understand where South Africa is today and why we are a nation that we are. But we also understand where we come from. I think maybe just to start, Marcus Garvey says a people without knowledge of their past history, origin, and culture are like a tree without roots. So these sites are the roots that we need. They are the soul of the nation. They are our identity markers. It is through heritage sites and what we preserve that anyone can understand who they are, where they come from, and therefore better chart a way forward. And therefore they remain relevant. However, heritage sites should not remain in the past. They need to evolve, begin to engage on contemporary issues and challenges so that we are better able to chart a way forward.
That's exactly my next question. It's an interesting conundrum, is it not? That you're dealing with items of heritage and that hark back to the past and are sort of time capsules, but you are saying that they need to evolve and embrace new technologies. How exactly?
If you come to Freedom Park, you'll see that we have moved away. While we do have physical objects and artifacts or exhibits, we also have technological aspects of the exhibition. For example, young people who love to engage with technology. We have tablets where they can type in a topic on heritage, on culture, on social cohesion, and they can learn. But also there are what we call virtual tours and realities, so that it's not a time where we can just say, we love, actually heritage sites, we love people to come, the numbers to come and grow. However, there are alternatives where you can have virtual exhibitions whereby wherever you're sitting, you can type in Freedom Park and you can go through the story of Freedom Park without moving from your home, for example. So we need to begin to be creative enough to come up with ways that can include everybody wherever they are.
Yeah. All right, I've got to thank you for your time. Thank you for raising this important topic during this month of Heritage Month. That is Jane Mofamadi, who is the CEO of Freedom Park.
Call Thulasizwe now, 086 000 2032.
Good morning. Good morning, live. Wow, hey, we're still going to have this crisis for as long as people are never honest. It's worrying. This spokesperson from NSFAS is asked about a building in the Western Cape instead of answering that simple question. It's going on and explaining procurement and stuff. These people are not honest. I don't know when we're going to get to deal with this issue. They will never ever give straight answers. Beat above the bush and become complicated, sophisticated, leave everybody else in the dark, not knowing anything, not informed at all about these processes. It's so bad.
Yeah, thank you for that. We'll take a few more of those voice notes before the top of the hour. But let's bring in Stay from Durban. Stay, good morning to you. You want to talk to me about unemployment in the country?
Yes, good morning. I want to speak to Chowik because I just had 3 questions. I just need to understand why South Africans, especially white men, remain the highest earner in this country. And I would like to know what is really stopping the South African president from signing a bill or a law that will allow us South African natives to own or share economy, especially in cases and towns. Yes. I would love to understand why, or if all workers were to stop working, like to down tools, because the salaries that are being earned. You see, we're not working, but people who are working, they are not earning the decent salaries, and we see all these protests. But I'm just asking, because if workers were to just down tools and stop production, stop services, stop working in the people's houses just for 8 weeks, I just need to understand really who is really going to lose here. I understand. I always hear people talking about jobs are going to lose, but I just need to understand who's going to lose.
The right to protest is very much entrenched in our constitution, and you would be well within your rights to lead that protest. When I stay,
it's not working.
You don't have to wait for someone to start it. You could start it yourself.
No, it's not working.
Right.
But I think maybe the solution is to just not to go to work. Not to go to the kitchen to work for the people who, like working in the kitchen being a domestic worker. Maybe stop for 8 weeks, 2 months, and see what is really going to happen. I just need to understand what is really going to happen.
All right, I've got to thank you for that input. That's Stay out in Durban there, weighing in on issues of unemployment and inequality and transformation, putting them front and center.
Good morning, Thulasizwe. There are always complaints of wasteful expenditure. And here you have NSFAS going to rent a property in Cape Town. And there are also so many hijacked buildings in this country. Why does NSFAS have to go and rent a property in Cape Town for so much money? Why don't they just take over one of these hijacked buildings and own it? Thanks, Lionel Woodbank.
Good morning, Thulasizwe and your team. Happy Tuesday. If you still remember very well, when former President Jacob Zuma loved this country, said we need to have a nuclear power station, they've been discouraging him, saying lots of things. He wants to loot money. The Guptas are going to loot money. He said, South Africa, let me build a nuclear power station so that we can deal with the issue of load shedding. But we've been discouraging him, said, hey, former president, you want to loot the money. But when that day comes, load shedding starts to attack us, we still remember those words. We need to have a nuclear power station. I think the minister, need to speed up the process. We need nuclear in South Africa. It's Percy in Matlosana.
All right, I've got to thank you for that. And Percy there talking about the nuclear energy situation, of course, that harks back to the period of the Jacob Zuma administration. And of course, these are policies guided by the Integrated Resource Plan, and the IRP, at least the 2018 one, always spoke of the need to procure some nuclear. But we'll have to leave it there. That's how we come to the end of the Tuesday edition of the Morning Brief. Join us for more tomorrow. We've come to 9 o'clock, time for a news update with N. Musa. Essential cover from Outsurance pays out claims in cash, allowing you to choose your own panel beater. SMS CAR to 43187 now.
In our top stories, a possible reshuffle in the Nelson Mandela Bay Metro and water supply challenges affecting Charlotte Maxeke Hospital. Good morning. The executive mayor of the Nelson Mandela Bay Metro, Gary van Niekerk, says they've had several meetings with the ANC about a possible reshuffle in the metro. This comes after the ANC announced plans to establish an ANC-led governance in the metro. Van Niekerk says the planned reshuffle comes after the provincial ANC received a directive from National for the party to lead all municipalities where they are a majority. Van Niekerk says further discussions about the way forward are expected.
What's happened in the last week or two is that we had very cordial meetings where this possible change was discussed. The ANC provincially received a national instruction that where they have the most seats, they should be leading government. And what's going to happen now is that I haven't had any feedback after this weekend's meeting, but I know for a fact that we'll be having a meeting with him in the near future, and we'll, together with all the parties, will discuss it.
A group of students and parents from Stellenbosch University are set to approach the High Court in Cape Town for an urgent interdict to stop the university from closing the controversial men's residence Wilgenhof. The group called the Association for the Advancement of Wilgenhof Residents, say the closure is an unnecessary and harmful disruption of the current students' accommodation, support structures and academic routine. Spokesperson Nulani King Conradi says the temporary closure will be a sanction imposed on current residents for acts perpetrated by individuals in the past. The residents made headlines a few months ago after disturbing images and paraphernalia were found in locked rooms. The Charlotte Maxeke Hospital in Johannesburg will be prioritizing emergency cases and divert all elective surgeries to nearby facilities due to water supply challenges. Joburg Water says one of its water reservoirs in Parktown, Johannesburg, is critically low to empty due to poor supply and high demand. Gauteng Health Department Skutso Rabotata says the safety and well-being of patients remains top priority.
To support patient care, we have secured 4 tankers of water from Johannesburg Water and also water bottles so that patients can be able to take their medication. And in the meantime, we are working closely with Johannesburg Water to resolve the issue quickly. We apologize for the inconvenience and assure that we are doing everything possible to minimize disruptions.
The National Student Financial Aid Scheme says applications for the 2025 academic year will open on Friday. Applications were supposed to open today but had to be postponed due to concerns raised by student organizations at universities, TVET colleges and institutional governance structures. Higher Education Minister Dr. Nobuhle Nkabane briefed the media in Pretoria yesterday on the developments.
Another reason for postponing the launch of the 2025 NSFAS online application process was to allow NSFAS to do a dry run on the online application system to stakeholders. The feedback received has already informed some of the critical systems changes to simplify the online application process and also making it accessible to all.
The new members of the Pan-African Parliament were sworn in yesterday. The ANC chief Whip Mdumiseni Ntuli says as the delegation from South Africa, they will work together to ensure unity as the representatives of the country. Ntuli spoke to SABC News on the margins of the Pan-African Parliament sessions in Midrand.
What is very, very important is that this parliament must have the capacity to influence in a very united way the agenda of the African continent within the AU, but equally within our own individual countries, to ensure that that which we discuss at the Pan-African Parliament and the AU find expression in our own domestic policy.
And finally, U.S. President Joe Biden has spoken to Donald Trump a day after what's being investigated as a second assassination attempt against him. The White House said Biden conveyed his relief that Trump was safe. Trump took to social media platform X after speaking to Biden and said the president could not have been nicer and had asked for suggestions, to which Trump responded saying that he needed more people on his security detail. Recapping the top story, the executive mayor of the Nelson Mandela Bay Metro, Gary van Niekerk, says they've had several meetings with the ANC about a possible reshuffle in the metro. It comes after the ANC announced plans to establish an ANC-led governance in the metro. For SAFM News, I am Anne Musa.
SAFM 104 to 107 nationwide.
Hey, you know, Ntwana, if I could, I'd fly to Dubai.
Here we go again.
First class, Exeni. Ngithi shwe. Get myself a V12 Beast and a mansion with Instagram-worthy views.
You don't even have Instagram.
Imagine seeing the city skyline from my bedroom, watching MasterChef SA while I have my very own MasterChef in my kitchen. Forget the queues at the cinema. I'd have one in my crib, Joe. I'm talking 7.1 surround sound and a 120-inch 8K TV whilst I'm sipping on some grapes. I'm talking luxury, Ntwana. What do you know about that? Let me school you, bro. Tune into Dubai, Buying the Dream, Saturdays at 8:30 p.m. on S3, and channel your inner luxury. Only on S3. Open up.
TUT Matatanta ladies are focused on full points as they chase a suitable position in the top half. But UWC want to triumph and pressurize log leaders. This is the Hollywood Bet Super League. Catch Mzansi Queens of the beautiful game. TUT Matatanta Ladies FC versus UWC Ladies FC on Saturday 21 September at 8:30 a.m. Live on SABC Sport on DTT Channel 4. Also available at your fingertips on SABC Plus and SABCSport.com. Brought to you by SABC Sport. For the love of the game.
Becoming Elizabeth is the fascinating story of the early life of England's most iconic queen. With no clear heir, the death of King Henry VIII sets into motion a dangerous scramble for power. Elizabeth's fascinating and factual journey to secure the crown is filled with scheming, betrayal,